The main character holds the guy in her arms and asks him to open his eyes. The girl asks why he saved her at all, because she understands that it simply doesn't make any sense. The lady whose eyes were full of tears understands that they cannot be called a family. After all, she ignored him, and he sacrificed his life for her, and she understands that it is too late for regrets. The eldest daughter of Count de Lanches, Lumina Lalange, is the product of a heartless marriage. After her mother's funeral, her father brought into the family an illegitimate son from his mistresses, and also the mistress herself. The girl was not happy to watch all this. All attention was focused on the boy because everyone was hanging around for him, and she felt like a scapegoat because she was not considered a member of the family. One day when the parents were returning home after a banquet, the father and stepmother died in an accident. The priest addresses all those present and asks them to treat death with care in order to honor the memory of Count and Countess Lanches and return their souls to the hands of the Lord. The brother and sister silently watch this funeral and try to hide all their sadness. At this time, relatives were talking among themselves that it was an accident and only young Mr. Endymion survived. The woman says that these children are still so young and asks who will run the family now. The uncle approaches the girl and says that she will now become the head of the family. He said this when the funeral was coming to an end and called himself her maternal uncle. The man claims that she is the true heir. Not the boy. Endymion Lumina asks what will happen if the position of the head of the family is transferred like that. Uncle says that after mom died, she was treated like a nobody, and he thinks that it's obvious that she will be the first to get rid of. The man says he doesn't want his niece to be treated like that, and he says this for her own good. The main character says that she understands her uncle, but claims that it is not up to her to decide. He suggests that she not worry but simply trust him, because he believes that only she is capable of becoming the head of the family. Hearing this, the girl was surprised, because she thinks that she always lived in the shadow of her late mother, and she was subjected to all kinds of bullying, and she was simply shocked by these words. Since then, much has changed. Endless wealth and attention from men have appeared, and also complete freedom of action. Taking advantage of her situation, Uncle Joseph began to take her to gambling houses, counting on luck. He always took her with him and also taught her to play cards and gambling. Due to family matters, the main character simply did not have time to worry about her younger brother Endymion. Lumina quickly fell into the trap of entertainment, just as Joseph had wished, and very soon she began to suffer from hallucinations, not realizing that she was rolling into the abyss. Time flew by quickly, and the girl became quite an adult, and even completely forgot about her vigilance, and also did not pay attention to the people who protected her. The young lady screams and asks the men to let her go. Uncle says it's their main pearl and suggests they take better care of it, then asks what if the price drops because of the scratches. Lumina asks her relative what he is doing and claims that she agreed to a marriage of convenience. Joseph tells the girl that she is a legionnaire, a being who has incredible powers, and such creatures are no different from people. But when using abilities, their appearance changes. Uncle asks if she knew this, and tells her that even sister didn't tell him about such important things before she died. Considering that legionnaires usually show abilities before the age of 5, he believes that she probably hasn't fully awakened the power yet. Joseph tells her that he is lucky that the price is quite high. Then he asks if she knows what their family's financial situation is. The main character is in surprise if he is going to sell her, and then screaming asks if he thinks he can get away with it. The girl claims that she is the head of the family, and the uncle agrees with her and then smiles and says that she is a pathetic excuse. He says that this was agreed upon by all the relatives, and even if she disappears, no one will worry, and therefore suggests that she not even think about it. Joseph informs her that her new master will take care of her, and therefore tells her not to even think about dying. Hearing this, Lumina thought that she needed to escape and that she needed to get out of here quickly, but she realized that her strength was completely exhausted. Uncle says it's good that they filled her with medicine because she can't even move. Hearing this, the girl was surprised, and she understood why her body was like this. Joseph tells the servants not to leave any bruises on her. Suddenly, the young lady is blindfolded, and she realizes that this is a state of despair, and she wonders what is happening. The girl thinks that maybe this is her end. She wonders why she was born in the pitch darkness. Suddenly, the girl felt someone touch her hand and then tell her to run faster. Hearing this, the main character wondered if she had really been mistaken for someone else. Lumina looked at the boy, who was covered in red liquid. The brother tells the girl to run as fast as she can because he thinks his role in protecting her is over. The moment her free brother, Endymion, lost his life force, she gained healing abilities. The uncle she trusted betrayed her, and the brother she ignored saved her life. And so the girl regrets being so rude to this guy. Lumina wanted to turn back time and thinks that he saved her in vain. The girl got wounds trying to save Endymion, which after some time began to give pain. And then she thought that she herself would die, just thinking that the legendary Legion of Healing really exists. A male acquaintance says that it seems that the poison's effects were too prolonged, and therefore the process cannot be reversed. Her brother is badly injured, but thanks to his healing abilities, he saved her life. Hearing this, the main character does not understand what he is talking about. The man says that with such powers, she could have saved his son. Then he touches the girl's eyes and says that it is too late. The stranger asks why she can't come to her senses and also asks if she even wants to live. Lumina thought about how she wanted to live and save Endymion, who died because of her stupid choice, and then take revenge on whoever betrayed her. The man says that he thinks the girl is determined, so he decides to give her another chance. But in exchange, he will take her heart, which she will give to him. The main character opened her eyes and was surprised, because at that time, she was at her parents' funeral. It seemed to her that it was repeating itself. The women, when they saw Madame Valencia, were curious as to what this child had done to deserve such treatment. However, another lady said that they did not need to interfere, because this girl was the eldest daughter of Count Lanches. Suddenly, the little girl heard pain on her cheek, and she didn't understand what happened and thought that maybe she was sleeping, because after the words of that man, everything was in a fog. The main character does not understand what happened at all and how she ended up in this place, which she had already been to. The aunt asks the girl why she is not herself and what she is thinking about. The woman screaming asks why she is staring at the wall. Lumina realized that her aunt had hit her in the face, and everyone around was watching with interest. And the funeral was the same as when she was 12 years old. And then the main character realized that she had returned to the past. The aunt turns to the girl and says that the children can only be brought to their senses with a slap on the back of the head. At this time, the girl thought that she reminded her of her mother, and then she raised her hand and hit her aunt in the face. However, the woman did not even imagine such a turn of events. And then screaming, she asks what this bastard is doing. The young lady thought that if she really had returned to the past, she was no longer going to be a scapegoat. The girl says that it turns out to be a slap in the face. It can bring her to her senses, and she thinks that it would be just right for her aunt to come to her senses. The main character remembers that Aunt Valencia always hated her, and she tried to get the family's wealth, and therefore she believes that she is also involved in her death. Lumina reflects on the fact that not only her aunt, but all adults are blinded by money and are ready to sacrifice an innocent girl, and death means nothing to them. The young lady wondered who knew that she would be disposed of without a word. Aunt asks the little lady if she's crazy. Lumina says she definitely is, and wonders how Aunt could figure it out right away. The main character thought that she didn't want to live like this anymore. Aunt Valencia asks if she has decided to put on airs and thinks she will become the heir. However, the girl does not answer, and the aunt screaming asks who she is talking to and if she thinks she can cope without help. Valencia screaming says that she will not forgive her even if she crawls on her knees. Hearing this, the girl thought that she did not want any help from these terrible people, and she believed that she would cope very well without their help. Lumina saw her brother and thought that they finally met. The girl turns to the guy and says that of course the circumstances are not the best now, and thinks that it is better for her to put everything in order now, since she thinks that her brother is quite smart for his age. Endymion is only 10 years old, and the young lady thought about what must have happened after the accident. He was very scared. The main character remembers that her parents did not love her at all, but they were kind to her brother. Lumina extends her hand to the boy and says that she wants to try to get along with him, and at that moment, she thought that they both understand perfectly well the situation they are in, and she thinks that if they are at odds, it will cause more and more suspicion. The girl understands that this may seem suspicious, but with time everything will become clear, and she believes that maybe others do not understand, but not Endymion. The young lady thinks that in this way she will repay her debt to her family. The little girl looked out the window where the candle stood and realized that it was not a dream, and she says that she did not think that she would end up in this attic again. The main character remembers that the man she saw before his death seemed unfamiliar to her, but now she comes to an understanding. This man is the head of the ducal family, Lucius von Hart. He is the most famous legionnaire and the person with the highest rank, and also considered the main culprit of the massacre of the legionnaires. Lumina doesn't know why he did this to her. She wonders why she met him in particular. The young lady thought that Endymion must have heard rumors that she was being held captive by her relatives. The girl remembered the man and thought that this still doesn't explain anything, but she doesn't understand why he said that she could have saved his son, and she thinks that he turned back time. The main character understands that the legionnaires are special and thinks that he must have done something to her heart, and probably like her, he remembers the future. Lumina considers it fortunate that she can now freely use her powers since she was unable to do so in the past. The young lady thought that she first needed to meet with Duke von Hart. The gambling house was the place to hear all sorts of rumors, and the day after she revealed her legionary gift, she was there. However, the young lady does not understand why her migraines have become worse lately. The lady who was sitting at the table asks Sudarev if they heard that the heir of Duke von Hart could not cope with his power and lost it. The man says it seems his own talent almost killed him. Hearing this, the main character thought that the legionnaires are very powerful creatures with supernatural abilities. In any family, even a non-noble one, a child could be born with the gift of a legionnaire and awaken his power. The gift of the legion is very rare, but awaken this power. A person must register and receive the status of a legionnaire so that the state can use his power for military purposes. Among the legionnaires, Duke von Hart was considered very powerful. The young gentleman says that he has heard more than once about the trouble of the Duke's son, and he believes that this boy has a terrible fate since he will become weak because of the one who lost control of his strength. The guy with blonde hair says that they say that the more the legionnaires use their abilities, the closer they are to mental illness, and among them, many go crazy to one degree or another, and some even have their bodies change. The lady says that however it rarely happens, that both father and son are legionnaires, and she would never have thought that everything would end so sadly for them, because she believes that now his son is in fact a neutralized legionnaire. At this time, the main character does not understand why her head hurts so much, and from this pain, she loses consciousness. A girl, sitting at a gambling table, suddenly falls to the floor, and after a while she grows wings. The gentleman who saw this understood that Countess Lanches was a legionary. Lumina understood that it was then that her uncle learned of it. The girl understands that a neutralized legionnaire is one who has lost his power. However, he retained the external signs of a legionnaire. So neutralized, legionnaires were secretly sold to influential people for a huge price as a strange creature. And this is exactly how she was sold. Uncle says that his sister died without telling him this important secret. Hearing this, the main character thought that it was unlikely that his mother would tell him about this. The little girl understands that her mother was the only one who knew, and she did not even tell her father, Count Lanches, that she was a neutralized legionnaire. The main character recalls that she then approached her mother with a bouquet of flowers and said that so many of them were blooming in the garden. However, her mother did not even pay attention to her words and says that even when she was not even a month old, her father continued to run to this disgusting woman. Hearing this, the little girl was surprised, and the woman continued to report that he had married her and then asked how he could betray them. The woman approaches her daughter and asks if she has seen the child that this woman bore him, and says that he is a copy of her father. Then the mother asked her daughter why she didn't look like him at all, and after these words, she touched the girl's face and squeezed it very hard. Lumina thought that perhaps the circumstances required her to hide any problems concerning her, and she understands that whatever happened about it, only they and she knew. Suddenly, the girl heard someone calling her and thought that it was a familiar voice. The uncle turns to the little girl and says that it is good that he found her and offers to talk. At this time, she thought that he should go far away. Despite the fact that the funeral had already taken place, the relatives still did not leave their house. They expressed a desire to stay for a couple more days, supposedly to honor the memory of the dead. Only then did the main character begin to understand that this was not why they stayed. Yosef asks the little girl where she was rushing to. Uncle asks how she got it that she is wearing it. Then he tells her that she is dressed as if she had taken the outfit from a passing beggar. Hearing this, the main character thought that she would tolerate him for a while longer. Joseph says that he, of course, expected this after his sister passed away, but he thinks that it seems that the Count and his wife have completely abandoned her. Lumina says that this is the only dress she has and asks if it really looks that bad. The uncle turns to the little girl and says he has something to talk to her about. Then he asks if they can go to the dressmaker later and order a dress for her. Hearing this, the girl smiled and said that she was so happy, and then asked if she really could have a new dress. She understood that he wanted to use her for his own purposes, and she thought that now she would simply ruin him with her whims, and that would be the end of it. When they came to the clothing store, Lumina pointed with her finger that she liked every dress. Hearing this, the salesman says that the young lady has a very refined taste. At this time, the little girl became interested in how much it would all cost. The uncle explains to the girl that he won't be able to handle such a bill. Hearing this, she asks in surprise if he will really ruin him. Lumina says that she thinks she forgot because she thought she could do anything. Then she apologizes. Joseph says that she doesn't need to apologize because he is her uncle, and so she should have everything she wants. Hearing this, the main character thought that this was just a golden opportunity to ruin this family because she understood that she herself did not even need these dresses. The little girl says that she is so glad that she has such a wonderful uncle to rely on. And at that time, she thought about taking off his rose-colored glasses and getting ready for bankruptcy. Dear Uncle, Lumina opened the door and looked at the yard, wondering if there was anyone there. She remembers that she checked this exit many times. The little girl thought that since Uncle had already emptied her wallet, she needed to find Von Hart's artifact before she was caught, since she believed that it was somewhere nearby. The guy turns to the girl and says that he finally found her and asks where she was. Hearing this, the main character does not understand who he is and looks at this black-haired guy in surprise. The boy grabs the girl by the hand and then hugs her and says that he is coming here. He hit her and asks her not to raise her head. At this time, Uncle calls Lumina and asks where she ran away. He thought that there would be no problems with her because she was always so obedient and does not understand why she ran away now. Joseph saw a black-haired boy next to whom Lumina was standing, and he thought that he looked like an evil magician, and he does not understand why a girl would approach such a bad boy. The little girl asks if the man has left. The stranger says that he has, Then he tells her not to look around like that because he thinks that they will be suspected. At this time, the girl looked at him and did not understand who he was and why he helped her. A stranger says that if she wants to look at him, she should look straight ahead and not be shy. And then he says that if she has something to say, she should say it. She asks why he helped her, and then he wonders if he is also hiding from pursuit. The girl asks if he hugged her so that he wouldn't get caught, and then says that if so, then they are like accomplices. The boy agrees with the girl and says that he helped her because she is in a similar situation to him, and then asks where she is going. Hearing this, the main character thought about what it meant that he only pretended to know her in order to help her. Lumina thanks him and explains that he saved her and asks where he is going. He replies that he is going nowhere and suggests that it would be better not to approach that man. The girl does not understand what he is talking about. Suddenly, the guy takes off his cloak and puts it on the girl. Then he explains that if she walks around like that, people will figure out that she is an aristocrat's daughter who got lost on the street. The little girl asks how he is. The young gentleman replies that he will manage, but if they are suddenly separated, then she needs to be as inconspicuous as possible, and therefore he suggests that she take her cloak and leave with caution. At this time, the main character thought that although this guy was harsh, he still helped her, and she can't believe that she accidentally met such a person. Lumina says she doesn't know where he's going, but she wishes him luck and thanks him again for his help. And at this time, she doesn't understand. For some reason, she thinks that this meeting is the beginning of something good. The salesman heard the door open and thought that the first visitor had arrived, and then he greeted and asked in surprise why the girl had come here. The man asks if she is looking for her parents. Then he says that unfortunately, there is no one here except flies, so she definitely won't find them here. The little girl saw a ball on the table that is used to identify legionnaires, and she thinks that this must be a very unusual tavern, and she understands that it seems that she has come to the right place. Lumina says she needs Mr. Calvados. Calvados is the name of an apple brandy, but few know that it is also the pseudonym of Duke von Hart. The salesman tells the girl that he won't sell her anything without her parents' permission. Hearing this, she wonders if he'll play dumb. The little girl tells her uncle to think for himself, that if she needed alcohol, she would say Mr. Calvados as if it were a person, and she thinks that it seems he has forgotten how to select normal workers. The seller replies that she doesn't know from whom she heard that she could meet him here, and then she claims that a little girl has nothing to do here. The main character asks what if she is a legionnaire. He answers that legionnaires do not go here but to the office to register, and then asks if she knows how many people claim to have the gift of a legionnaire. Lumina explains that she came to Mr. Calvados because she does not want to register her gift. Then she says that she has the gift of healing and that she heard that he is extremely interested in people like her. Hearing this, the seller asks in surprise who could have told her such a thing. The girl thought that he was very stubborn and that nothing could be done, and then she touched the ball that was on the counter. The man told the young lady that it would not do any good anyway. The little girl claims that she will show him that she is not an imposter, and then the ball cracks and butterflies fly out. The seller saw it and thought it was incredible. Lumina points at the ball and asks in surprise why it broke from his touch. A few minutes later, the man made the girl a children's drink, and when she took one sip, she thought that it had a lot of sugar in it and thought that he thought that children only like sweets. The main character realized that his attitude immediately changed as soon as he found out that she was a legionnaire, and he immediately offered her tea and all sorts of goodies. The salesman asked the girl not to go anywhere and to wait for him here. Hearing this, she thought that he would probably go for Hertz von Hart, and she did not think that he would close the store right away. Left alone, the little girl thought that this was impossible, that she was much stronger than she had assumed. Hart entered the room. Looking at him, the main character does not understand what these ridiculous glasses are for. Seeing the girl, the Duke asks in surprise where she got this cloak. At this time, the young lady thought that he also remembered his life before returning. The little girl replies that it was given to her. He asks, who? Hearing this, she does not understand why he is interrogating her. The salesman says he doesn't think he should push it that way because she's just a child, no older than 10. The girl says she's 12, and therefore says there's no need to treat her like a child. The main character thought that the Duke thought that she was just a child. Von Hart explains that his son is about the same size, so he was just asking. At this time, the girl became interested in whether the Duke would not recognize her, and she believes that if he remembered his past life, he would persuade her to leave. The young lady believes that the Duke she met then really wanted to save his son, and even if he doesn't remember his past life, it doesn't change anything. The Duke tells the little girl that he is proposing to change the place, and at that moment, she thinks that she should not hesitate. After all, this man has power and she follows him. And at that moment, she thinks that Joseph and his family be damned. Very soon, they came to a small room to assess its capabilities. The Duke says he will ask again if she has the healing powers of a legionary. The girl assures that it is true. The main character looked at the room and thought that she didn't even know that there was such a secluded corner where even a whisper could not be heard. Fonda Hart asks if she could demonstrate her abilities, and then he takes a knife and makes a paralysis and says that he did it on purpose. Hearing this, the young lady thought that he wanted to test her skill right away without discussion. Lumina remembers that when she thought about Endymion, who was on the verge of death, the abilities began to manifest themselves, and she knows that she has never wanted to save someone sincerely before. The gentleman and his assistant looked at the palm and saw that the wound had disappeared, and he thought that this was an incredible skill. The Duke says that he feels like she is taking on other people's wounds. Hearing this, the protagonist thinks that she has been found out because he noticed her hand. He asks to what extent these abilities can be used. The little girl answers that this is not the limit, but she can only teach an ordinary person or a legionnaire. He asks, what about sick people? The girl understands that if her abilities were advanced, she would have saved Endymion in her past life. Lumina looked at the gentleman and did not understand why he was looking at her like that and wondering what he thought about her abilities not being so healing. At this time, the main character wipes her palm and thinks that such wounds heal quickly, and despite the fact that she was poorly fed and raised on it, there were no scars left, and her wounds healed faster than others. The little girl understands that in the past, no one really cared about it. The Duke turns to the girl and says that she has an unusual ability, and he does not understand why all this. The gentleman claims that she has unique abilities, but that's all, and suggests that she go home. Hearing this, the girl asks if they will part like this, and she understands that if she leaves, everything will simply collapse. The main character believes that she needs to convince him at any cost and make sure that he cannot refuse. She turns to Sir and says that everything is fine. Lumina reports that the stronger the legionnaire, the more he is susceptible to corruption due to strength, and she believes that if you are unlucky, you can even die, since healing affects not only small wounds. The girl claims that she can save Duke von Hart from his wrath. Upon hearing this, the Duke asks what she is even proposing. The young lady tells him that she can save his son's life and tells him that he is heartless, and then asks him if he loves his son. Hearing this, the gentleman says that it means she can do much more. The main character says that an indifferent father would not even know his son's clothing size, and says that he is one of those who are ready to sacrifice their lives, being on the verge of death. The Lord asks her what she wishes for. The little girl replies that she only wishes to use the Duke's power until she reaches maturity. She then tells him that her mother and father recently died in an accident, and her younger brother is the only direct heir. Therefore, she believes that feud between relatives is inevitable. Lumina says that she wants her brother to accept the inheritance calmly. The Duke says that it turns out that time is needed. The girl says that when she grows up, everything will settle down, and for now he offers to protect her and assures that he will definitely not regret choosing her. After meeting with Duke von Hart, she returned safely to the Count's estate. Throughout the day, Joseph scolded her and tried to find out where she was, but she barely paid attention. However, Joseph's incessant scolding seems pointless to her. The little girl knocks on the door of her brother's room and asks if she can come in, and when she enters the room, she asks if he is feeling better. Endymion replies that everything is fine, and then asks in surprise why she came. The young lady looked around the room and saw that there were flowers and toys all around, and it was also surprisingly clean, and it seemed to her that relatives often came here. The girl asks if his relatives often visit him. The boy replies that they often come. Hearing this, she thought that he was as curt as ever, and Endymion had not changed since the day they first met, and she thought that even when it was necessary to be careful, he behaved rather meekly. The main character does not understand why she had such hostility towards him, and then asks the guy if he thought about the inheritance. The boy thinks for a moment and then replies that he doesn't even know. She asks if his relatives are forcing him to lead the family and asks if he's ever thought about it. My sister says she was offered the same thing. She thinks her relatives are looking for a suitable puppet, and they must think that children are easily influenced. The girl says that if she were older, she would not pay attention to her relatives at all, and then she says that he would never accept such offers. However, he believes that the choice is his. Endymion asks why she is telling him this. He also asks if she is upset with him. The boy says that he always thought that she hated him. At this time, the main character thought that she never trusted her family because she did not have a single good memory connected with them. The second mother constantly complained that her father ignored her. This woman was obsessed with her biological father, but in the end, she just got stabbed in the back. The main character thought about how she had to remove the veil from her eyes when a glimmer of light appeared in the pitch darkness, and she believes that she will never forget that time. Lumina replies that she is not upset with him, and then she says that he is the only person in the world close to her, and that is why she decided to stop hating him. The boy asks his sister if she wants to inherit her father's inheritance. She replies that she is not interested in such things, and from now on she believes in honesty and fairness. Hearing this, the brother was surprised since he rarely communicated with his sister anyway. The next day, when Endymion came to her room, he asked why she lived in such conditions. The girl replies that it is because she has shown sincerity. However, the boy claims that his sister is a legitimate daughter and that she should be given a better room. And so he suggests that she move out of her room as soon as possible. Hearing this, the young lady doesn't understand when he became so caring and even worried about her. The maids enter the room, the little lady, and inform her that she has a guest, and so they will show her. In hearing this, she is surprised and asks what guest and why so suddenly. The maid informs her that Duke von Hart wants to meet her. Hearing this, she thinks that her brother should not worry, since she will soon move out of the attic anyway. When the girl went down to the lower floor, she saw the Duke sitting at the table, as well as her aunt and uncle. The little girl greeted them, and then she said that she was the eldest daughter, and her name was Lumina de Lanches. The Duke tells her to sit down, and the aunt smiles and says that she didn't know that Madame knew the Duke. The main character thought that Duke von Hart was handsome, and she couldn't believe that Joseph and Therese were so surprised. She expected them to jump at the chance. The girl looked to the right and saw many boxes under the wall, and then she asks what it is. The Duke replies that they are her gifts, and then explains that there was no time to get flowers, and so he decided it would be better to buy her gifts. Teresa says that he cares so much about Lumina, and the uncle wants to know how his girlfriend met the Duke, and he suggests that he must have known her biological mother. Duke von Hart says that he is her guardian. Hearing this, Joseph is surprised, and then asks what guardianship, and he says that he has never heard of anything like that. The gentleman asks if they really think that the Duke von Hart family only knows how to talk. He claims that he cares neither for time nor for manners, since he is going to take this child under his wing. The Duke says that she is so smart that he even wanted her to become his son's wife. Hearing this, Lumina was surprised. She became interested in what her son himself thought, and why not ask her too? Auntie says that their Lumina is really good. Hearing this, the girl thought that it was just a joke. Well, she feels a little awkward about it. The gentleman says he must be aware of the conditions in which the Lumina grows. Then he asks if they could show her to her room after dinner. Teresa says that she is a girl, and therefore thinks that it is improper to look into her room. Hearing this, the little girl says that everything is all right, and she thinks that the Duke will think her a little old, and if it does not embarrass him, then she does not mind. The aunt looked at the girl and showed her her fist and thought that she was saying something she shouldn't have said. At this time, the young lady thought that she was sure that Teresa knew how the Duke would react to her room. And if she told about how she was brought up, she would have problems. And she thought that she should take matters into her own hands. When they came to the little girl's room, the Duke asked if it was a playroom or a dressing room. The young lady replied that it was her bedroom. The gentleman says that the estate is quite large, and then asks if there really wasn't a better room. Hearing this, the main character looked at her relatives and thought that their expressions were changing more and more, and she thought that they were afraid that the Duke would notice their terrible attitude. The girl thinks that they are mocking her themselves, and then trying to hide everything. Teresa turns to their girl and asks if she is very worried about the Duke von becoming their guardian. And the aunt turns to his lordship and explains that this is only a punishment room. And then she says that the little girl has a separate bedroom. She asks if his child is always obedient. And then she says that Lumina goes here when she is naughty. Teresa turns to the girl and says that she knows that she wants more attention, but assures her that she shouldn't lie to her like that. The main character tells her aunt that she lies so confidently that she simply couldn't help but laugh. Hearing this, her aunt gets angry and asks why she says that she lies, and then she assures that she only said what she heard herself and asks where the lie is. The girl asks if she heard it herself and assures her that then she should not jump to conclusions about those in question, and asks if she really knows nothing. Teresa asks if she really lived in this room. Hearing this, the main character thinks that now she pretends not to know. The girl assures that she lived here and suggests that she look around, because she believes that it is impossible not to understand that someone lives in this punishment room. Lumina says that she understands her aunt because she didn't care, because she doesn't know anything, and so she asks to let her take the initiative into her own hands because the Duke is her guest. The main character thanks the Duke for agreeing to be her guardian. He says that she has a family that surprised him. The young lady says that she doesn't know a family that doesn't have problems. She says that it's her turn now and asks when she can come visit him. He says that whenever he pleases. At this time, the main character thought that there were only 6 years left until the death of the young Duke, and she wondered if he had any symptoms. The girl thought that in that case, she should gradually prepare herself to take revenge. And then she turns to his lordship and says that she wants to ask him for a favor. The little girl says that when she comes to visit his son, she will be able to stay for a couple of days. And she explains that she needs time to examine the young Duke thoroughly, and she also asks if he doesn't mind. At this time, the young lady thought that if he refused, she did not know what to do. The gentleman answered that she should do this at her own discretion. Lumina thanked his lordship and said that she would then come with a gift for him. Sitting in the carriage, the assistant looked at the captain, who was sitting very thoughtfully, and asked how it all happened. He answered that this girl was brave, and he was very impressed. The man says that he was going to take hers under his wing anyway, and he claims that a gift is such a thing, and it cannot be bought a pit of gold. The Duke replies that he is right, and at that moment he thought that legionnaires are very often deprived of humanity and warmth of soul. But when Lumina used her ability, a light that could melt even the coldest heart began to emanate from her body, and then the gentleman felt like an ordinary person for a moment. The Duke believes that the ability of strength, which is self-evident, is a rare and very desirable ability. And he immediately felt his strength. After all, he understood at what moment to take a step back and at what to make an effort. The gentleman thinks that she was ready to negotiate, and today he realized that this girl knows how to be decisive and knows when to use it. And that is why she surprised him, because it is rare to meet such children. The assistant tells his lordship not to forget that she is still a child, and that suspicions cannot be removed from her, because he believes that she may be connected to that very event. Fonda Hart agrees with him, and says that she can lie, and remembers that he asked her if she knew more about her ability than he expected, and he wonders if she ever communicated with the Legionnaires. The girl replied that she had communicated. The gentleman understands that she is lying and at the same time asserting, but he knows that the girl has lived locked up all her life, and therefore she had no opportunity to meet the Legionnaire. Foundation Hard says that he finds it rather strange how well she understands her ability, and he thinks that there is a lot of suspicious about her. The assistant asks if he should continue digging, and also asks what his lordship thinks about it. The gentleman replies that he will entrust him with this again. Brendan Munez is a lieutenant of Duke von Hart, and he is a legionnaire with the ability to change appearance. Brendan says he's a little worried because the target is a man who's lost everything and still fights, and he says he'll try not to disappoint the captain. And then he says he forgot to ask if the son who ran away has returned. The Duke replies that he doesn't even know, and if he has returned, he carefully avoids him, even at home. The lieutenant says that it's his age, and then he explains that it's a protest against his parents. Brendan thinks he may still be reeling from what he saw during the massacre. The main character thought that her life had changed a lot since the Duke had visited her. The most noticeable change was the new quarters. Lumina thought that this was not her first time in this room, and she would have been given this room if she had obeyed Joseph in everything. The main character remembers that in her past life, this was not said to her. It made her happy, but now she has other concerns, and she understands that it was necessary to free the estate from unnecessary people. The girl turns to her relatives and says that she didn't know that her parents were so dear to them. And then she says that she is so pleased that they all kept fond memories of them. Lumina asks her dear relatives if it's time for them to return to their duties, because her dad and mom told her that adults always have adult things to do. The girl asks if they think her parents would not be very pleased that they left their duties under the pretext of mourning. She wonders how they feel about it. Thus, the main character threw out the relatives who had been staying with them for too long under the pretext of mourning. However, these two steadfastly endure all the reproaches. The young lady understands that Joseph and Teresa are after all representatives of the Fan clan, and believes that they cannot be driven out so easily. After the atmosphere in the manor cleared up, even the servants who usually ignored her began to treat her very well, and every day they brought fresh flowers to her room. The maid tells the mistress that as she ordered, they decorated the interior with flowers given by the Duke, and what could be planted, they planted in the garden. Hearing this, the girl thought that apparently this maid liked the task very much. The main character believes that she, unlike her stepmother, is not picky, and many of the maids want to earn her favor, and she understands that they must be. They are happy that now they will have much less work. Lumina turns to the maid Samantha and thanks her for always helping her. She thanks Milady and explains that it is her duty. The girl did not push them away. She asked if they were paid well. She also wondered if she should talk to the butler about it. The maids objected and said that they were paid very well, and there was no need for that, since the salary always arrived on time. The main character thought that she needed allies in this estate, and she understands that the maids who do not want to befriend her because of the past will distance themselves from her even more, and it will become obvious from whom to expect betrayal. The young lady thinks that she is just a family of discord, fallen between these people, and she thought that they should wait until she sprouts. At this time in the kitchen, when all the maids have gathered, one of them, with green hair, turns to Samantha and says that she was the one who bullied her the most, and then asks if she is not ashamed to fawn on her now. Samantha asks when this happened. The maid asks who released the rats from the attic into the young lady's room. And then screaming, she says that she has no conscience. The black-haired maid says she remembers it because the young lady ran to complain to her mother, who accused her of lying and beat her, and asks who else gave her the ointment for her bruises, and says it definitely wasn't Samantha because it's not like her at all. Hearing this, the red-haired maid grabs the girl by the hair and asks if she has said everything, and then she says whose cow would be silent and hers would be silent. The maid, screaming, says to let her go since she is not lying, and remembers that on that day she was among those who ran away from the attic that day. Samantha pulls the maid by the hair and asks if the young lady herself chased the rats away afterwards. The girl with black hair replies that it was not her. At this point, the head maid comes in and says that now is not the time for fighting. Then it is reported that the copper fell down the stairs. Hearing this, the maids were surprised. After all, they did not understand how this could happen. The doctor, when he examined the young lady, said that she would have to refrain from running for a long time, and then he bandaged her leg. The doctor says that if the fracture had happened higher, everything would have been much worse, and he says that the child needs to try hard. Joseph tells the doctor that he understands everything and will monitor her nutrition. The uncle turns to the maids and asks how they could keep quiet about this. He says that he didn't even know that the banister on the stairs was held together by a thread. Joseph says that they came into the room and did not even greet the doctor. At that time, the maids felt ashamed and asked for forgiveness. He says that he thinks that this incident should be taken seriously. Uncle says that it would be better to fire all the servants. Hearing this, Teresa asks if this is too cruel. Blanche is faithfully for many years, and she understands that they made a mistake, but she believes that it is impossible to simply deprive them of their livelihood. Teresa thought that she had bribed a lot of the maids, and that she was not going to lose them all. At that time, Joseph thought that he wanted to recruit servants loyal to him, and the girl wanted them to just squabble among themselves. The main character believes that whoever wins will benefit her, because she understands that this is all part of her plan. The girl thought that Joseph should come soon, because he needed to convince her as soon as possible, so she made trouble for the maids, and everything worked out as she wanted. Lumina realizes that for some time they were not visible in the corridors at all, and she could only suffer. She counted on the maids being blamed for any misfortune that happened while they were busy. The main character realizes that it was not difficult, just like her shabby room in the past, and these railings were broken. The maid informs Milady that Mr. Endymion has arrived. Seeing him, the aunt turns to the boy and suggests that he come to her, and at that moment she thought that it was good that he was on her side. The woman turns to the boy and says what she wants him to tell her, but suddenly he interrupts her and turns to his sister and asks what happened to her, and then he goes to the girl and doesn't even pay attention to this lady. Lumina explains that she was admiring the flowers and leaned on the railing and fell. The young gentleman asks in surprise where the servant was looking. The girl says that she called a couple of times, but they did not come, and apparently thinks that they were busy. The boy asks the servant what they were busy with. Then the aunt turns to Endymion and says that the matter is that Count Melkin now wants to fire all the servants. And then she tells the boy that if he thinks that is too cruel, then he should say so, for he is a young lord, and they need to know his opinion. The young gentleman replies that the victims here are Milady's, and besides, she is the eldest in this family, and they should first of all hear her opinion. Hearing this, the aunt is surprised, and he asks what his little sister thinks about it. At this time, the main character thought that she was waiting for a convenient opportunity, and Endymion did not keep her waiting long. Milady says that as far as she knows in such cases, after severe beatings with rods, the culprits should be branded with a hot iron. She believes that this is negligence and lack of discipline, and they have the right to even send them to prison for this crime. The girl says that given their loyal service, such a punishment would be too severe, and instead, she wants everyone fired. The servants were surprised to hear this, and Lumina said that she was proposing to fire them without compensation because they were guilty of this incident and there were no recommendations. Samantha runs up to the girl and then kneels down and says that they made one little mistake and it's not fair that they're all going to lose their jobs, and then begs her to complain about them. The red-haired maid says that she has already pitied her more than she deserves. The main character whispers in her ear and suggests that she remember everything they did to her, taking out their anger on her, and she claims that they should be grateful that they were not punished to the fullest extent, but only fired. The girl says that they could have broken her back and therefore suggests that the maid leave herself. The next day, Lumina thought about how quiet it was in the house now, and how there were no more servants. She thought that now she didn't have to worry about being noticed. The young lady came to her brother's room and thinks that he doesn't want to talk about his leg injury, but judging by how long and hard it is, healing it is something serious. The girl thought that she also had a leg injury, so she thought that it wouldn't be so noticeable if she took his injury on herself. When Lumina touched the guy, she felt pain, as if her leg was broken, and she thinks that it looks like he has a very serious fracture. And since she assumed she just needs to endure a little more, the young lady thought that now she would quietly leave, and no one would notice her. But suddenly, the boy grabbed her hand and asked what sister was doing here. Endymion asks what it was and where that bright light went. The girl claims that nothing happened, and she knows nothing. The young lady explains that she simply saw a rat run into his room, and so she came to see him. The boy heard this screaming, saying, "What a rat." At that time the girl thought that he believed her, but suddenly she felt pain in her leg and fell to the floor. Seeing this, Endymion asks what's wrong with his sister. She's smiling through the pain, says that everything is fine, and that her legs just suddenly gave way, and asks him to help her get up. The brother asks what she did to him, and then says that he feels strange because his legs don't hurt anymore. The boy explains that although he was asleep, the radiant light awakened him, and he opened his eyes, and she was in front of him. He helped her up and asked what sister had done to him. At this time, the main character thought that she did not want to reveal her abilities right away, but she believes that her brother can be trusted. Lumina says that she seems to have the gift of the Legion. Hearing this, the boy is surprised and says that she has not shown any signs before. She explains that it is probably a congenital anomaly. Endymion says he's never heard of such a thing and thinks it's impossible. His sister explains that her powers have only recently manifested and she's a unique specimen. Then she asks if he understands that. The boy replies that she is a unique specimen. He understands that the girl asks him only not to tell anyone about it, that she is a legionnaire, and that she impressed him. The brother says that of course he knows that if anyone finds out about this, she will be in danger. At this time she thinks that she knew he was smart. Endymion asks her if she fell down the stairs on purpose. Then he tells her that now that all the servants have been fired, their aunt has lost all her spies. Hearing this, the girl is once again convinced that he is clever. The boy asks if she can heal herself. The young lady replies that it is impossible, and she says that she has a strong ability to regenerate, so after sleeping she will feel much better. The guy gives the girl a box and offers to take it. He says that it is a painkiller that will help her cope with the pain. And then he says that since she cured him, he no longer needs it, and she is his sister, and he wants to help her. Lumina recalls that one day she saw rats in her room and screamed in fear, and when she ran to complain to her stepmother, she said that she was lying and then mercilessly beat her with a cane. That day, someone secretly put some ointment for bruises in her room, and the girl thought that maybe it was him. The sister thanks her brother and says that she will get better. When Endymion was left alone in his room, He lifted his pants and saw that there was nothing left of the injury on his leg. The boy understands that such a sudden recovery will arouse suspicion, and he decides that it is better to pretend to be ill for a while. For some reason, he remembered the day he asked his mother why she treated his sister so badly. He claimed that she had a rat in her room, and she didn't believe her, but the girl was telling the truth. Mom tells her son that she has told him this many times, but she will repeat that Lumina's mother took away everything that rightfully belongs to her, and so it doesn't matter whether she is lying or telling the truth. The woman says that now she is her mother, and therefore has every right to punish her, and then she claims that now everything is as it should be, and everyone knows their place, and she asks her son if he understands her now. Endymion heard the girl's cry and thought that he already knew that his sister's mother had taken everything from her, but he did not understand what his sister was guilty of. He also wondered why his mother was taking his sister away from him. The boy understands that the sister even told him that she was a legionnaire and healed him, and also said that he was the only one she had left now, and therefore she no longer wanted hatred. The young master thinks that it is quite fair for his sister to hate him. Early in the morning, Uncle, walking along the corridor, hums his songs, and then he decided to knock on Lumi's door. The main character opened the door and asked why he came so early. Joseph replied that he thought she wanted to talk. The uncle asks the lady that she probably feels very uncomfortable without a servant, and so he, as their and Endymion's guardian, must hire them a servant, and he recommends one. But suddenly the girl interrupts him and says that they have already sorted this out. Lumina announces that she is going to visit and explains that Duke von Hart has business with her. Hearing this, the uncle says that in that case, he as her guardian should also go. Hearing this, the girl objects and says that she does not want him to go with her. However, the uncle insists and offers to go together. Joseph asks why Milady is so reluctant for him to go. She explains that the Duke only invited her, and if she comes with her uncle, he will think she is a coward. The main character claims that Von Hardy hates cowards and liars, and then asks if he wants her to make it so that he is no longer her guardian. The girl claims that she will go alone, period. He wished her a safe journey, and at that moment, the lady thought that in fact, she just didn't want him to tag along with her. Lumina thinks about how she should have talked to Endymion this morning, and then he showed up, but she thinks that maybe her brother is still sleeping. The girl understands that the carriage will soon arrive, and she must already go to the Duke von Hart. But suddenly she saw her brother, who came to her. She says that she thought he was still asleep. He asks if she was going to Duke von Hart. Lumina says that she will be back in a few days and claims that he does not need to worry about her. The girl says she understands that this is an unexpected question, and then asks if he has thought about joining the academy. And at that moment, she thinks that while she is here changing the future, he needs to find a safe place away from home. The brother says he agrees. She asks why he answered like that without even thinking. Endymion asks if she wants him to go to the academy. Then he says that if so, then of course he will go. The main character turns to her brother and suggests that he not think about something else, and then explains that it is just a suggestion, and she respects his opinion. He says that he understands and agrees anyway. At this time, the girl thought that maybe he thinks that she is trying to throw him out, and she does not understand what is wrong with him and why he does not want to have a good relationship with her. The girl claims that she wants to be a good sister to him, and therefore she believes that studying is a good future for him. The boy says that there is no need for this because he does not want to become a burden to her. Endymion says that as far as studies are concerned, he agrees to enter the academy because he sees that she needs it. The young lady understood that he continued to repeat the same thing. The main character thought that he of course respects her opinion very much, but she somehow feels uneasy, and she thinks that maybe it is because she has changed. The coachman tells Milady that they have arrived at the estate of Duke von Hart. Hearing this, the main character thinks that time has flown by very quickly and has finally arrived, and therefore she thinks that now is not the time to think about Endymion. The young lady understands that she has more important things to do in this mansion, and she believes that the Duke is the only salvation for her and Endymion from their relatives, but she thinks that he still scares her. The girl greeted his lordship and thought that these glasses did not suit him at all. The gentleman saw that the girl was walking differently and asked what was wrong with her leg. Hearing this, the main character thought about whether it was really that noticeable, but she thought that she could pretend that nothing had happened. And then she says that she accidentally twisted it, but assures that nothing terrible happened. The young lady does not understand why he is walking towards her. Duke von Hard takes the girl in his arms and asks why she walked away from the carriage herself. Then he claims that it is completely unnecessary. The gentleman tells the servant to bring the lady a treat. The girl gives the gentleman the box and says that it is a gift from her, and then she reminds him that she promised him a gift, and it is a homemade dessert, but very tasty. Hearing this, the master asks if she has brought dessert with her, and then asks if she thinks he will not be hospitable and feed her. Upon hearing this, the girl objects and explains that she simply loves this particular dessert very much, and that is why she decided to give it as a gift. The main character asks if he doesn't like it and claims that they say sharing is better than eating everything alone. At this point, the Duke thought that she meant that she wanted to eat with him and asked if he understood it correctly, and he said that perhaps he would join. Lumina says that she will then set aside a piece for the young lord because she believes that it should not be thrown away. Von Hart tells the butler to bring 2 saucers and tea of the guest's choice. At this time, the gentleman thought that this lady was quite assertive, but she still understands that she is a legionnaire. The young lady looked at the gentleman eating and thought that at first he did not express a desire, but now he even liked it, and she thinks that there is no better food for the concept of mood, and therefore she thinks that she should come to the point. Lumina says that at first she thought of bringing him dessert from their kitchen, but they have problems at home. He asks what problems. The girl thought that he knew everything, but was pretending because she thought that he was aware of everything that was happening in the Lanches estate. The main character reports that all the servants have been fired for negligence, and so for now, their household is in the process of recruiting new servants, and the estate is idle. The young lady asks his lordship if he could recommend a good servant. He states that any people he approves will do. The gentleman says that it is not difficult. Hearing this, the girl thought that this was wonderful news, because she believed that now Uncle Joseph would be out of work and would not be able to recruit his decoy ducks as servants. The girl asks if the young lord is home, and then she says that she would like to start the treatment, and she wonders if he has left. The gentleman replies that he remains in his chambers and considers it fortunate that he found him yesterday. He says that he will tell her at once that he is not in the best condition and asks if she is sure that she wants to see him. The Duke claims that he needs time to calm down, as he is still recovering from the energy overload. Lumina tells him not to worry because she can handle it. Hearing this, the gentleman is surprised because he thought she would be scared. The young lady says that this is what she does best, after all. The girl shouted these words so boldly, and when she entered the room to the young gentleman, he pressed her against the wall and asked what was wrong with her. At that time, she thought that she had not even imagined that everything would turn out like this. The guy asks if they've met before. The little girl realizes that this is the boy she met in the alley, and she doesn't understand what he's doing here, and how did this all happen? The main character reflects on the fact that the Duke, who was supposed to escort her to her room, simply sent a servant, and the servant himself only escorted her to the door, and she understands that she will have to figure everything out on her own. The young gentleman asks her what she is doing here. She does not understand why he came so close to her, and then asks if he could move away a little. The boy says she used to be more polite. The lady says she knows who he is now, and she says he is the only son of Duke von Hart, Karen von Hart. Lumina says that she would like to formally introduce herself, and says that she has come to assist in the treatment of his lordship. She gives her name and says that she did not expect to meet him here again. Karen says that it is clear to him now because he believes that she is now his father's servant, and it is also clear to him why they used to see each other. He asks how she dared to come in here without permission and calls her a fool. Hearing this, the main character does not understand why he is suddenly asking for a conflict. The young gentleman asks if she thought he would let his guard down and asks if she should report to him about every step. The girl understands that the Duke hasn't told her anything, and that's why he's talking such nonsense. And she feels like she's some kind of spy, and it's no wonder that the situation seems strange to her. Lumina asks the guy if he will go with her, and also wonders if he will check if she is doing everything right. At this time, Duke von Hart says that this child hates him, and he will run away as soon as he sees him. The main character understands that the relationship between father and son is not simple, and she remembers that she felt it during the last conversation. But she thinks that everything could have been explained normally. The girl touches the guy's face and thought he had a high temperature. She thinks that the process of rolling back is underway, and it must be because of anger that the energy has accumulated. The young lady takes the boy by the hand and tells him that he needs to lie down. Then she leads him to the bed, and he asks in surprise what she is doing. Lumina touched the guy's head and said that she should help him. He looked at her in surprise, but did not object. Suddenly, the headache that had been piercing his head disappeared, and the torment that had driven him crazy, and the destructive impulse that had made him thirst for the red liquid, all disappeared without a trace, and like a haze that dissipates with the rising sun. The boy hugged the girl and thought that it couldn't be, and he was very surprised. Suddenly, the young lady screamed, and he asked what it was, and at that moment she fainted. Karen asks if she's okay, and he thought she fell asleep, and asks if she's doing this on purpose. He says if she doesn't wake up, he'll have to go to her worthless father. The boy grabbed his head and said that this was some kind of madness, and then smiled. Brendan asks the gentleman if the lady is with the Duke now. He replies that she is, and says that they will see if she can cure Karen, but they cannot predict anything yet. The assistant says that whatever happens, it is better to keep a low profile for now, because the palace is currently conducting checks, since he knows that the lady does not want the palace to know about her. The Duke recalls the girl's words that she does not want the palace to know about her abilities, because her strength is not yet enough to protect herself. She says that if the palace finds out about her abilities, she will be sent to the battlefield. The young lady says she doesn't want to go to war, and she hates being used even more. The Duke knows she's made that clear. Brendan says they'll be in trouble too if they're caught, and he thinks the imperial family won't let such a special legionary slip away. The gentleman says that he thinks it is possible to arouse suspicions. Hearing this, the assistant asks in surprise what suspicions he is talking about. Suddenly, Karen comes into their room, and then he turns to his father and tells him to explain to him, who is this girl that she uses fucking magic? At this time, the main character came to her senses, and when she opened her eyes, she saw a ceiling that was unfamiliar to her. She realized that she had lost consciousness during the treatment. All this time, the Duke sat by the girl's bed, and when he saw that she had come to her senses, he asked how she was feeling. The girl wondered if this was the estate of Count von Hart. The gentleman says that she may not get up, and then he says that she slept for 3 whole days. Lumina heard this and was surprised and asked if so much time had really passed. The Duke explains that she slept like a log, and that's why he periodically checked to see if she was alive. The girl says that she thought she had simply passed out, and at that time, she thought that he had come to check on her. The gentleman asks her again how she feels. The little girl replies that she feels great and says that she is ready to run a marathon. Von Hart asks if he can believe her. Then he says she said she was fine, but there was a problem with her legs. The young lady replies that she thought it was normal because she could walk anyway, so there was no need to worry. He asks if she had been treated before. The girl explains that she was treating her brother for now. However, the gentleman says that doctors came and they said that after the accident, it will take another couple of months to recover. Hearing this, the main character thought about what he had already noticed. The gentleman informs that from now on, she will only treat his son. Baby says that there is no one else she can show her abilities to. She thought that she feels like she has forgotten something and finds it hard to believe that she can actually cure Karen. The main character understands that he is quite strong, and therefore his body could not resist. However, if she continues to support his strength, he will be able to grow up calmly, and by this time he will already learn to control his abilities. The master says that this child can save Karen from being absorbed by the force, and he believes that abilities should not be wasted in vain. Lumina says that Karen knows nothing about her at all. Then she asks if he ever told him. The count replies that he did not consider it necessary. Hearing this, the girl asks why else. He asks if she heard about the massacre 6 years ago. The little girl answers that she heard, and at that time, she thought that she does not understand why he suddenly started talking about it. The gentleman says that the boy saw everything with his own eyes, and he was present during the massacre of the Legionnaires. Von Hart says the son said something. The girl asks what exactly. He answers that the blonde girl with pink eyes helped him. Hearing this, the main character thought that light hair and pink eyes. Besides her, there is only one other person with such a rare combination of light, and that is her mother, Chloe Lanches. Lumina knows that her mother had a secret of her own. The Duke says that the Legionnaires are possessed, and as soon as they notice someone similar, they cling with all their might. Von Hart reports that she resembles this woman, and so he decided that there was no need to introduce them beforehand. Hearing this, the female lead thought that there would be no problems because of her appearance, but the young master got angry when he saw her. His lordship reports that thanks to her, Karen is learning to overcome difficulties, and so he hopes that this will continue. The girl thought that now she understood what it was like to help others, and then she reminded him that she had said that he would never regret it for anything in his life. The Duke says that she must be hungry for 3 days, and suggests that they quickly get out of bed as dinner is ready. Lumina, sitting at the table, thought about how she hadn't eaten for a long time without worrying about poison. At the Duke's estate, she pretended to eat because she was afraid of poisoning. The girl understands that she has been stuffing herself with poison for a long time, but she thinks that there is no need to worry about it here. After all, they took care of her when she lost consciousness while saving her son, and the Duke looked after her all night. The main character saw that the Duke was sitting at the table smoking cigarettes, and she thinks that inhaling tobacco smoke at the table is also a real poison, and she understands that it can't be candy. Lumina asks, in surprise, if the candy is a cigarette. He replies that his wife hates the smell of tobacco. The little girl knows that the Duchess has long since died, but he still thinks about her. The Duke gives the girl a candy and asks if she wants more. Then she should not be shy about asking or saying so. Hearing this, the main character thought that he reminded her of her son, who then said that if he wanted to say something, he shouldn't keep it to himself. Lumina asks if he could recommend a servant for the Lanches estate. Then she reveals that she is concerned about what was in the estate when she was unconscious. The Hart Foundation tells her not to worry, as it has immediately called in those who can work quickly and keep their mouths shut, and believes that they have most likely already done their work, leaving no trace. Hearing this, the main character thought that it couldn't be, because she understood that he had not sent a servant to her house. The girl asks what he means by the words, "they did their job." He replies that they wiped the dust, and so on. The gentleman claims that he guarantees that when she returns, there will not be a single speck of dust in the Lanches estate, and the staff of servants will be minimal. The young lady says that she understands, because dust must be removed. At this time, the girl thought that he was talking about cleaning, and she thought that he sent killers for her uncle and aunt. The Duke asks if she always falls unconscious after using force, and he says that last time everything seemed to go without a problem. Lumina says that she doesn't know that yet either, and she says that she thinks they will understand after she treats the young lord again. The young lady thought that she doubted it herself because she used her abilities too often, and she thought that maybe she just couldn't heal external wounds. The main character reflects on the fact that when she treated Karen, it was a completely different feeling. Duke von Hart says that if she needs rest after each treatment, he insists that she stay with them because he believes that her visit will not arouse unnecessary suspicion. The girl says that he is only her guardian, and even if he took on the responsibility of providing for her, he will have the heir of another family for a long time, and she believes that this could be problematic. The gentleman says that if she agrees to the engagement, all questions will be removed. The lady was surprised to hear this. He asks if she had not said, and very confidently, that she wanted to take advantage of everything they had. And then he asks why she was so surprised. At this time, the main character thought that, of course, she could not help but be surprised, since she believed that she and Karen did not even think to ask about this. Brendan turns to his lordship and apologizes for interrupting, then leans over and whispers something in his ear. Von Hart says he has business now, and therefore he will leave for a while, and he says that they will discuss the rest later. He says that he saw the girl's personal maid. After some time, a maid with bright red hair comes into the young lady's room and says that her name is Olivia, and she is her new maid. The girl says that her name is Lumina, and therefore asks her to take care of her while she is here. And at that time, it seemed to her that she knows this name and has heard it somewhere, but she does not remember where. The maid asks what the young mistress would like. The girl replies that she wants to take a walk and asks if it is possible. Olivia says that of course you can, and then says that she was told that she has difficulty walking and asks if she can be carried on her back. Lumina objects and says that she shouldn't, but simply offers to accompany her. The maid tells Milady not to worry, as it will not be difficult for her. However, the girl insists that there is no need and explains that she woke up this morning and found that her leg is already much better. Olivia tells the lady that she will get her ready for a walk in 5 minutes, and a few minutes later, they were already in the Duke's garden. Walking in the garden, the main character remembered that the maid said that she was physically strong, and it was unexpected for her to hear this from the maid, and the girl believes that all the Duke's servants have special talents. Lumina believes that, however, this is not so important, and the main thing is that she is a good and friendly maid. Suddenly, the girl heard a scream and became curious. Then she looked behind the tree and saw a young lady, asking the guards how they dared to stand in her way. The silver-haired girl asks if they want to rot in prison for the rest of their lives, and also asks how they dare to treat her like that, since she is the princess of the empire and the fiancée of the young Duke von Hart. Hearing this, the main character was surprised and thought that the Duke had just proposed to her to marry his son. The girl with silver hair is Aravel Piaget Limbrana. The emperor had only 3 heirs. Ariel, the beloved daughter of the August family, and the only legionary of royal blood. She is very popular and loved by the people. Lumina thought about how, however, she remembered absolutely nothing from her past life about her engagement with the young Duke, and she wondered if they had been engaged secretly. The guard turns to Her Highness and says that the gentleman did not say that he was expecting guests. Aravel reports that she did not notify his lordship and explains that she simply came as soon as she learned that the young lord had returned home. The maid who accompanied the lady screaming says that before them is a person of royal blood and asks how they have the audacity to talk like that. Then she says that no matter how high the status of the Duke at court, he is still only a nobleman. The guards claim that they answer only to the Duke. The maid then suggests calling the master. The guards answer that he is not at home. In that case, she says to tell the prince that the princess has come to him. Lumina asks the maid if the princess is really engaged to the young lord. She replies that she does not know what the August family of Milady has decided. Then she says that their master has not made any decisions about the engagement of the young lord to Her Highness. Olivia says that, to put it simply, the princess has unrequited love for the young lord. Hearing this, the girl does not understand whether this is possible at all, but she understands that given the character of this boy, it is quite possible. At this time, the main character noticed that Aravel was looking at her very much, and she became curious about why she was boring her with her eyes so much. The princess points her finger at the main character and asks the guards who this girl is. Then she says that, judging by the way she is dressed, she is not from the Duke's family. The princess asks if this girl is visiting the Duke. Olivia turns to Her Highness and says that Duke von Hart has taken custody of the young lady. Hearing this, Aravel was surprised and wondered why she didn't know anything about this. Then she turns to the girl and calls her stupid and begs her to come to her. The main character thought that she was, of course, a princess, but she didn't understand what kind of manners she had since she was talking to her like that. Her Highness says that the princess gave the order and asks why this girl does not obey. Olivia turns to Milady and asks if she wants to come. Hearing this, the girl thought that she would like to ask the maid for help, but if she does not fix it, the princess will complain to the Duke, and she thinks that then her situation will become even worse. Lumina thought that she will have to cope somehow on her own. And then she says that she is coming, and at that time she thought that she must show what she is capable of. The princess asks the girl what her name is. The main character replies that her name is Lumina Lanches, and she is the eldest daughter of the late Count Lanches. Her Highness looks at the young lady and says that it is the first time she has heard of her, and asks if she is the heiress of the Count's estate, and also a legion like her. The main character objects and says no, and at that moment she thought about how she could get distracted by someone else. Aravel turns to the young lady and says that she will do her an unprecedented honor and join her for tea. Hearing this, the main character thinks that she knew that this princess was up to something. The little girl thought that she was trying to get into the estate with her help, and she thought that if she invited her into the house as a guest, the guards would have no choice but to let her in. The princess asks if she intends to refuse. Lumina replies that of course not, and asks how she can refuse such an honor, and she thought that she would never be able to quarrel with the imperial family, and therefore she will not agree. She cannot. Aravel says that today is a great day for her not very noble family, and then says that she allows her to brag to her parents when she gets home. The main character heard that she hoped her parents would be proud of her since they had recently died. The princess says that this is a misfortune, and at this time the young lady thought that she is an ordinary legionnaire, but as it turns out, she knows how to empathize. Aravel says that she demands an explanation from the girl and asks what kind of relationship they have with the son of Duke von Hart, and says that she is almost sure that they do. But suddenly the main character interrupts her and says that she has no relationship at all with this guy. Hearing this, the princess was surprised and asked if it was true and wondered if she knew him. The princess's maid comes into the room and apologizes for keeping her waiting. Then she says she will pour her some tea. When the maid poured tea for the princess, she deliberately jerked the cart so that the tea would spill on Lumina. At this time the young master was training. Brendan was watching him. The assistant asks how long he has been here. The knight replies that it has been more than 2 hours. Brandon says that he is homesick, or maybe he decided to catch up. The knight says he can understand the young lord, but he doesn't understand how the legionnaire can endure this, because he thinks this Ash is a real little beast. Karen turns to Ash and tells him he needs more rage, and says he's done slacking off. The red-haired boy tells the Lord that he is in a completely different mood today. The young master replies that this is not the case at all. Ash, that no matter how much the gentleman tries to dissuade him, he feels it. Karen asks the guy, "What is it?" Ash replies that he felt like he was looking at his mother for a moment. The servant turns to the Duke and says he has an urgent message. He says that Princess Aravel, but the boy interrupts him and says that he has already been told about it. At this time, Karen began to wonder if she was pursuing him, because he had persistently asked her to marry him since childhood. But he understands that now everything has changed, and he is disgusted even to hear her name. The servant says that Lady Lumina invited her to tea at the estate. Hearing this, the master asks how this potato. Kudash thought he was talking about boiled potatoes. The young gentleman turns to the boy and says that they are done for today. The boy with red hair asks if he is running away from him again. Karen objects to her and explains that he must save Lumina, or the princess will turn her into mashed potatoes. Ash is surprised to hear this and says that he cares about her so much. He then tells her that Princess Aravel has not even looked at him after all his attempts at courting her. The young master explains that it is because she looks like her parents. And at that time, he thought that she would be jealous even if he told her the truth, that he saw this girl for the first time when he woke up. Karen reflects on the fact that since his abilities were awakened, he no longer thinks about her, but he understands that she will now make scenes with him for knowing the Count's daughter. The young gentleman turns to the servant and tells him to take him to them, that if the princess starts to plot, then it will be serious. At this time, the main character looked at her wet dress and does not understand what it was. The maid apologizes and says that she did not do it on purpose. Hearing this, Lumina thought that she had taken advantage of the fact that Olivia was not around, since her maid had gone after the Duke. The girl thinks that the princess's maid drove away all the servants in the house and insisted on serving them at tea, and so she knew it was not without reason. And she thinks that this is some kind of kindergarten. The maid says that fortunately the tea was not hot at all, and then asks if it is not wonderful to be having tea with the princess herself. At this time, Lumina thought that she knew that the tea party was nothing more than an excuse, and they just wanted her to help them meet the young Duke. The young lady stands up and slaps the maid, and then says that it is a big nuisance. And at that time she thought that she underestimated her, and also thinks that in this life she will not fall for anyone's tricks. Lumina explains that she did it by accident too, and then apologizes. And at that time, she thought that now the maid should get ready because she will pay for all her antics. The main character takes a cup of tea and pours it out, and the maid screams and asks what she is doing. The young lady says that she seems to have gotten angry when she saw the princess humiliate herself and didn't even realize what she was doing. She says that servants are reflections of their master and asks if that is true. The little girl says that she is surprised that the princess's servant behaves like this. At this time, a young gentleman opens the door to the room and says that he woke up not long ago and they were already making noise. The princess turns to Prince von Hart. However, he does not even pay attention to her, but looks at the lady of the dress and asks why she looks like that. And he claims that she looks like a boiled potato. Lumina smiles and says that it's nothing like that. And at that moment, she thought about how he came without Olivia, and she wondered if he was really looking for her. At this time, the princess was watching them and said that they were quite close for a first meeting for strangers, and then asked if it was true that they had already met. The young lady replies that they have already met and thought about what she said, but she did not think that they would meet right away, and she realized that if she tried to explain, she would only anger the princess even more, and therefore she thinks that it is not worth angering her. Lumina claims that this is almost the first meeting, and she reflects on the fact that whatever the case, it is better to trust the wisdom of Prince von Hart. The main character says that she is under the Duke's protection, and that is why they have only seen each other briefly. Hearing this, the young gentleman asks what she is talking about. The princess looked at them in surprise and said that the prince doesn't care about others, and asked why he was so concerned about some girl. Aravel asks if she is dear to him. He replies that it is nonsense, and then asks Her Majesty what she is doing here. Hearing this, the main character wondered if it was possible to say such a thing to a member of the imperial family. The princess replies that she did nothing wrong. Hearing this, the girl thought that it was rude. The young gentleman looked at the broken cup and asked who it was, if not her. Her Majesty said, Eva. The maid explains that it happened by accident. Karen tells her to speak frankly and then claims that if she lies, she will be left without a tongue, so she won't blab. The maid claims that she accidentally dropped the teapot, and at that moment, she thought that there was no proof that it was on purpose, and she understands what this little girl can do if the princess plays along with her. The princess reports that she saw the maid deliberately throw the tea set. Then she claims that she did something wrong and therefore disappointed her. Eva says she would never spill a young lady's tea. And then she says there's no proof, and she says it's unfair, and she thinks that's the price she pays for being loyal. Aravel asks what evidence there can be, and then asks how she dares not believe the words of a member of the royal family. Her Majesty says that the maid dared to dishonor her dignity, and she says that she no longer needs her. Karen turns to the girl and claims that she knows nothing at all, that the princess is terribly careless, and therefore he is glad that she left. The girl says that her maid had done something wrong, and perhaps she ran away because she was afraid of the Duke. Lumina asks the young master why he is speaking outside the door. The maid explains that he is embarrassed to come inside while the lady is washing. The long-haired maid says that he even asked her to take care of the lady so that she wouldn't catch a cold. And her partner asks if she knew that he also told her to be careful because it was hard for her to move. And they also wondered if the master even knew how to do that. The main character came to the door and thought that they would have to see each other many more times, and she thinks that it would be better to build a good relationship. The guy looked at the girl and asked what was wrong. She said that she completely forgot to say words of gratitude for her help. He said that it was nothing and claimed that if he walked like that, he would have problems with his legs. The girl asks if he is worried about her Karen objects and says that he is not. The lady claims that it is true. He turns around and says that he did not mean it that way. The young gentleman says that if she wants a quiet life, then she should not get involved with this family. The main character says that she is already under the Duke's care. Karen says that as soon as she feels better, she should ask for everything to be returned to the way it was. And he says that he does not know why she should be his father's servant. The guy tells her not to trust Duke von Hart. Hearing this, Lumina is surprised and asks why, and then says that she is not stupid to blindly obey. The young gentleman says that on the day of the massacre, his father killed not only the legionnaires, but also his mother. He put her into eternal sleep, and his father did the same. Olivia asks my lady if she is leaving today. She says that she is, but first she will meet the Duke, and then she says that she has not seen him since this morning. The main character looked at the office door, and it seemed to her that they had recently been repaired. She wondered if someone had tried to get inside. The Duke showed the letters that Joseph had sent. When the girl saw them, she thought there were so many of them. He said that her uncle was still sending letters, although he had not answered any of them. Then he said that she could read them if she wanted. The girl opened one letter, and when she started reading, she thought that the message was not surprising, since he was upset that his plans had failed. The main character asks if anyone else has written to her. The gentleman replies that no one has, and asks if she is expecting a letter. Lumina replies that she is waiting, and thought that her brother would send her a letter, and so she is a little worried because everything is fine in the Duke's mansion, but Endymion is still locked up among his relatives. The girl says that she wants to send her brother to the academy. The Duke is surprised to hear this, and the girl claims that her brother is very smart, and she promises that he will be the best in the class, and she believes that he will still succeed and will definitely thank her. The main character says that if she sends her brother to the academy, he will finally be free from his relatives, but she understands that she does not have much power in her hands, and therefore she hopes that she will be helped. Von Hart says that it's not a bad idea, and he'll think about it. Hearing this, girl smile and thanks him, and tells him that he's the best, and then hugs him. And at that moment, she thought that she came too close, and didn't even realize. Lumina apologized. He claims that everything is fine, and says that he should be thanking her, and then he says that she did her job well. Hearing this, the girl was surprised. The gentleman reports that she treated Karen well, and he even came to see him personally. At this time, the young lady thought that he smiles so rarely and thinks that he must be very happy. The main character says that she is glad that the gentleman has become close to his son. He says that this is unusual because his son has not come to him since Iris's death. Upon hearing this, the girl realized that the Duchess's name was Iris, and just hearing the name brought a note of tenderness to his voice. And then she remembered the words of the boy who said that his father had killed his mother. The young lady wondered if he could really kill his wife. Lumina remembered that she had something for the master, and then she pulled out irises from her bag and said that they bloom so beautifully in the garden. The girl says that the floral scent will remind her room of its fragrance, but there is nothing in his office. When she looked at the gentleman, she did not understand why he had such a reaction and thought that she had said something wrong again. The main character understands that it is not so easy to improve the relationship. Von Hart says that he is thinking of performing a marriage ceremony for Karen. Upon hearing this, the girl was surprised and then asked why he did this all of a sudden. The Duke says he heard she met the princess and he thinks she's interested in her. He thinks that since she's a princess, he'll keep an eye on her. He says there'll be more suspicion if she keeps seeing Karen. The gentleman says, in order not to attract the attention of the imperial family, he thinks it would be better to take the position of the Duke's son's wife. Hearing this, the girl thought that then the princess would completely kill her. The Hart Foundation claims that the marriage is just a shell of a contract, and once the contract is up, they can get a divorce. The young lady asks the young gentleman what he thinks about it. Then she claims that there is no point in the marriage if he is against it. The main character thought that if he loves Karen, he won't even want to think about it. The gentleman claims that Karen won't mind, and he thinks that he will even be happy if the princess reduces her interest. At this time, the young lady thought that he was saying that he was trying to protect her, but she knew that he was just using her as a cover, and she thought that it was obviously about profit. Lumina understands that the Duke's words also have meaning. Or she thinks that if she marries the young master, her frequent meetings with him will no longer seem so suspicious. The girl asks if she will really become the young master's wife in the Von Hart mansion. And at that time, she thought about the fuss that would arise if everyone found out that she was a legionnaire. But she understands that everything will only get worse if she becomes the young master's wife. The Duke says that he will pay enough after their divorce, and he names the amount of 10,000. Hearing this, the main character was surprised and thought that she should not be distracted. Von Hart looked at the girl and asked if that was too little, and he told her to let him offer again. He wrote to us and showed the check to the girl. Looking at these numbers, she didn't even understand how many zeros there were. The main character thought that the amount offered by the Duke was too tempting to refuse. The next day, when they came to the temple, the girl thought that it was a dream, and she wondered if she was really going to the oath ceremony, and she doesn't understand if she really agreed. The Duke informs her that given the unusual circumstances, the vow ceremony will be conducted in an unusual manner. He states that she will make a verbal promise as well as a contract that binds the souls together. The gentleman says he will need some of her red liquid. At this time, the girl thought that she hopes this is not a ritual to summon a demon. He says she came at the right time. Lumina says that Olivia woke her up and asks what it is. He replies that it is a circle of ancient magic. Hearing this, the girl was surprised and thought that it was illegal. Village magic in the Empire, where magic engineering flourishes, it is considered a dead and obsolete art. A form of magic that has survived to this day has absorbed the legacy of the ancient. It was called black magic. The main character understands that black magic is also illegal. The Duke says that his late father was very interested in the dark arts, and thanks to the fact that he has what she thinks he will be able to successfully carry out this ritual. At this time, the girl does not understand what is happening and thinks that the atmosphere is simply creepy. Olivia turns to his lordship and asks him to check the condition of the Grail again, just in case. Lumina saw the Karen and hoped that he would reject the offer with disgust. She wondered how his father managed to convince him. The young gentleman asked the young lady if she likes him. At this time, she thought that she would prefer not to answer because she thinks that this is an inappropriate question on his part. But since they are destined to see each other often, she will be friendly and understanding. The little girl replies that she likes him. He looks at the girl in surprise and then says that she has only seen him a couple of times and he does not understand how she can answer so easily. At this time, the main character thought that she, of course, loves money and asks, even if she likes him, will he be satisfied with such a marriage? The guy replies that as soon as she woke up as a legionnaire, she immediately rushed to his aid. And he, of course, is grateful to her that she will save him from the princess. But she is not at all like her. Hearing this, the young lady thought that now she understood how the Duke managed to convince him. Lumina says she's not just his partner. After all, his father uses her sympathy against him. He gives him a wolf in lamb's clothing. The young gentleman informs her that when they grow up, they will most likely divorce. He asks if she is not embarrassed that this is worse than a marriage of convenience. The lady replies that she has not yet thought about the fact that more than generous alimony awaits her in the future. Karen tells Lumina that she shouldn't be so trusting because she thinks that any guy on the street can cheat her. When she hears this girl thinks that it's funny because she thinks that he is the one being cheated here. The guy reminds her that he asked her not to trust his father, and then he says that he also has something to threaten her with. The lady tells him that people who are truly dangerous don't say things like that. Then she tells him that they hide a knife behind their back and act very friendly. And so she tells him not to even think that she will believe him, that he is dangerous if he says it openly. A few minutes later, the oath ceremony began, and the girl said that she was Lumina Lanches, agrees to be the mirror of his soul, and vows to look only at him. The guy tells Karen von Hart that he swears with his heart to follow only her. Olivia put the necklace on the girl's neck and the piercing on Karen's ear. The Duke says that now when needed, they will always be able to find each other. At this time, the main character thought that she was doing him a favor, but she did not understand why she had the feeling that he had beaten her. The boy with the bright red hair says that his name is Ash Munez and that it is an honor for him to serve as her bodyguard. Lumina says with delight that she heard about him from the young Duke. He explains that he is just a bodyguard and therefore can feel free to have any conversations in his presence. Olivia explains that this is her son, and if Milady has problems with the princess, she asks to convey a message to her through him. The main character looked at them and said that they are similar. At this time, the main character thought that the Duke would receive reports on everything she said and did, and so she would have to think about what she said. The girl turns to Olivia and says that she wants to see her again the next time she comes, and so she asks her not to forget her. The maid asks how one can forget such a sweet milady. Olivia tells the girl to try well to get better soon, and asks her to refrain from running until her leg heals. Sitting in the carriage on the way back, the main character thought that she suddenly remembered someone very important, and she wondered why she did not recognize her right away. The girl thought that Olivia was not a legion, but an ordinary person, a capable adjutant of the Duke, his right hand. Lumina remembered that in the past, she was the infamous traitor, the transmitter of Lucius. At this point, the Duke says that Olivia has been watching her for a long time, and then asks what she will say. Olivia replies that she will tell his lordship honestly that she is such a little thing, and then asks if he saw that too when she left, and wonders if he saw her rush to hug her. The woman with red hair reports that the girl looks like a fluffy ball of cotton candy. The Duke heard this and screaming told Olivia not to deceive herself because he thought it was not like her, and he said that she knew his pseudonym, Calvados, and then he asked if she had anything to add to her file. The woman objects and says that she did not notice anything suspicious. and she says that this girl is just a child who enjoys life, and she does not think that she has any selfish motives. Duke von Hart says that Olivia surprises him, and he has never heard her speak so emotionally about anyone. She asks if he thinks that's the problem. The woman says that Lady Lances brought him these irises and asks if he likes these flowers. He tells her to be careful with her words. Hearing this, the woman thinks that he has been overly tense lately, and she does not understand what is wrong with him. The gentleman says that she is no longer Lady Lances and asks her to remember to call her daughter-in-law by the name that is her favorite. Hearing this, the lady understood what the problem was. The Duke says Brendan hasn't been in touch and asks what she knows about him. She says nothing and says that means the little lady wants to see him. The aides de camp the Duke trusted to conduct his affairs. There were currently 2 of them. Olivia conducted his affairs in the light of day, and Brendan did his work in the shadows, and the 2 were husband and wife. Olivia asks his lordship to give her husband a couple of days' leave when he returns, as she has not seen him for so long. At this time, the gentleman thought that Brendan had not given any suspicious information either, and he believed that he trusted him. The gentleman suggested that Olivia move on to the next question. At this time in the Lanches estate, the servants gathered to greet the young lady. Seeing them, the girl does not understand who all these people are, and she understands that she seemed to have come to her home. The man turns to the lady and apologizes for not introducing himself to her immediately. He tells her that he is the new palace and estate of Lanches, Harold. The butler reports that the estate has undergone renovations and therefore suggests that you admire it at your leisure. Hearing this, the main character thought about what this means and is the servant hired by the Duke. She asks where her brother Endymion is. The butler replies that he is in his chambers. Then he says that he thinks that my lady should rest from her journey since she is still recovering. She asks if her uncle and aunt are also at home. He replies that they are. The main character wags to call them. Suddenly, the uncle opens the door and tells the girl that she is finally back. He says that he thought he would go crazy because she was gone for so long. Joseph says that this servant also fell on their heads, and they did not want to let them in. But they said that they came on the Duke's orders. He says that of course he is only a guardian, and asks if the Duke is not exceeding his authority too much. The girl says that it was she who asked him, and that is why she is so grateful that he agreed. She says that the estate is now in perfect order and she likes it. Lumina explains that she asked the butler to call them because she has something to tell them. She asks her uncle and aunt to please leave their house immediately. Hearing this, the aunt asks her what she has decided and says why she is so stupid. She screaming claims that the Duke's patronage has completely turned her head and says that she is not a duchess yet. Teresa says that if she loses her inheritance, that's great because it will go to Endymion. At this time, the main character thought that Auntie decided not to pretend to be good anymore, and judging by that, because Uncle doesn't even think to object, the main character thought that they never had and never would have agreement. Lumina asks her aunt if she is worried that she will not receive the inheritance. She agrees with her and suggests that she understands her correctly. The lady says that she is very pleased that her aunt cares about her and informs that she does not need their disservice. The lady informs them that Endymion will enter the academy, and they become friends, but of course they don't know about it. The uncle asks the girl how she will live alone in the estate. Lumina answers that she is getting married, and her fiancé is Karen von Hart, a young duke. Hearing this, the uncle and aunt were surprised because they did not even expect such a turn of events. And then they ask why all of a sudden. The young lady replies that the Duke will teach her how to manage the family's affairs, and she says that she has taken the young Duke away from another suitor. And then she takes the bell and asks if they have understood everything. The guards entered the room and asked if their mistress had called them. She replied that her uncle and aunt wished to return home as soon as possible, and so she asked them to help them. The aunt, screaming, asks the girl if she thinks she can live without them. The little girl says that not only will she be able to, but she will live happily ever after, and then she claims that her aunt will see it for herself. The next day, the main character saw Endymion. She asked how he was. The boy replies that he was told that he must pass the exam. At this point, the main character thinks that he has gotten straight to the point. She asks if he is talking about the academy. The main character thought that maybe this is a second chance. The brother says that he has a very busy schedule. Lumina explains that she was simply afraid that his relatives might start bothering him. And at that moment, she thought about how the Duke helped to sort it out quickly. Endymion asks the girl if her legs are feeling better. She replies that she is already running. The boy says he is glad to hear it. Hearing this, the main character thought that he was worried about her. The brother saw a guy with bright red hair and asked who it was. The young lady replies that it is Ash and that the Duke has assigned him to her. Endymion says that he is pleased to meet her. She says that he will keep him company tomorrow. The brother says that he does not mind and says that he will study well for the test. Lumina says this will be their first time out together and she's looking forward to it. The girl tells her brother not to worry, and if he doesn't know the answer, then just let him skip the question and come back to it later. Milady says that her brother might be hungry, and so offers to take a candy. He says that he has a feeling that she is even more worried than he is. At this time, the main character thought that she knew that her brother would cope, but she couldn't just not worry. Endymion tells sister that they will see each other again. She says that she completely forgot to tell him that she is getting married because of the exam. Hearing this, the boy was surprised, and the lady saw that his candy had fallen and then bent down to pick it up. He asks what kind of marriage. The girl says that she will tell everything after the exam. Lumina wishes good luck on the exam and then says that she will look forward to it with good results. The main character turns to Mr. Ash and says that the exam will last quite a long time, and then asks if maybe they should take a walk around the city for now. And at that time, the girl thought that this was her chance to get to know the future swordmaster better, and she was also very interested in Munez's family. The main character remembers that in her first life, there were rumors in society that the Munez family had fallen, and it seems to her that they betrayed Duke von Hart. The girl recalls a conversation between two ladies she overheard. They were talking about the Duke and wondering why he was so concerned about these traitors. The young lady thought that betrayal in close circles could not help but be upsetting. The little girl ponders that the Great Traitor is a nickname that was given to Olivia after she betrayed Lucius, but she realizes that there is something strange about Ash Munez, the son of a traitor. He did not receive any punishment despite constant criticism. Hearth Duchy. Then the main character decided that it didn't concern her, so she didn't dig too much, but she still thinks that it's pretty suspicious, and one thinks that something is wrong here. Lumina suggests to her guard to go to the center. Hearing this, he thinks that she is just an ordinary girl and does not understand what she is indicating. And then he remembers the request that he should follow this girl and report everything. The Duke asked him to try not to answer difficult questions, and he understands that if he has to speak, then just let him say everything is fine. No. Ash thought he wouldn't have to answer questions. The girl turns to him and asks if he thinks people are looking at them. He replies that it's okay. At this time, the girl thought that it seemed to her that everyone was looking at her because of the newspaper, and then she goes to the newspaper seller and asks if she can have a newspaper. Lumina read that Duke von Hart announced the wedding, and he already held the wedding ceremony. The main character realizes that her story is on the front page, and she thinks that this photo must have been secretly taken in front of the estate. The main character thought that since the photo is in the newspaper, most people in the capital already know her, and she thought that she would find these scoundrels. At this time, a man with a camera watches them from afar and thinks that now all the newspapers are writing about a girl who became a princess overnight, and therefore he thinks that they will sell his photo for a high price. When the photographer wanted to take a photo, he thought that his hand had shaken and he had to take another photo, but suddenly he felt a blow and fell to the floor. And then screaming, he asks Kelton if the lady is next to the luncheon. The guard tells the man that not only is he taking photos without permission, he's also being rude. And the main character picks up the camera and says that it's just disgusting. Kelton is a derogatory nickname for those of humble origin and those who come from the people, and it is a terribly offensive word that should never be said to someone's face. The stranger says that he hasn't been caught yet and is just a passerby. The main character explains that her night is so similar that he noticed him right away, and so she suggests that he confess to what he did. The girl asks if she took this photo. Then she picks up the camera and seems to want to throw it. Seeing this, the photographer says that it was him. Then she asks her to give him the camera back because he feels sorry and asks if they know how much it costs. At this time, the main character thought that it was obvious from his face that this was Jack, the infamous paparazzi. And it seems that now he is just a newbie, but in just a couple of years he will become the most insidious photographer. Jack will sell photos with false information, and sometimes it will even lead to death. Lumina says she needs to say something, then says he's a parasite who lives on other people's lives, and she thinks his life is in the gutter because he's a worthless rag who sells other people's faces without a twinge of conscience. Hearing this, the man asks her to stop, and at that moment, the main character thought that he doesn't like being scolded by others, and he throws insults at her. The girl thought that if she took the camera, it doesn't mean that anything will change, and she thinks that he will just buy a new camera and take it for the old one. The young lady believes that she will not let Ash off the hook so easily. She says that if he wants the camera back, he should go get it. Lumina says that firstly, you can't insult people based on their appearance, and then she makes him repeat it several times. The young lady says that everything is correct because Mr. Ash will decide for himself whether to forgive him or not, and then says that if he wants, the photographer will be beaten. However, the boy said that everything is fine. The girl was surprised to hear this, and then asked how it could be okay. Since he had just made an insult, Ash insisted that it was a small thing. At this time, the main character became interested in how often he hears this, and wonders if he is really that remarkable. Lumina says that if that's the case, he says, then she'll take action and punish him properly. And then she kicks the man between the legs and says that he's a scoundrel. After some time, the main character says that she is so proud of herself because she caught the paparazzi and bought Endymion a gift, and claims that she would have been in trouble if the day had not been so eventful. The girl gives Mr. Ash a box and offers him to take it since she bought it for him. The young lady reports that she noticed that he was interested in desserts, so she decided to buy some because she thought he wanted something sweet. At this time, the guy thought that it turned out that she was busy choosing a gift for her brother, and he did not understand how she found time for him. The girl asks him if he likes it. He replies that he does. The main character thinks this is great, and then explains that the young Duke also wears candy, and therefore thinks that their tastes are similar. The young lady thought that he didn't like it very much because she looked at his appearance. Lumina says that she thinks the exam is over, and when she sees her brother, she asks if he wrote the exam well and also asks if the questions were easy. Endymion asks his sister, what about marriage? And at that moment, she thought that he again immediately got to the point and suggested that they first get into the carriage. The main character reveals that her husband is Prince von Hart. The boy asks if they are really together. She replies that they are not and explains that she was just visiting the estate. The young gentleman asks if he has confessed his feelings to her, and then asks if she will give him a piece of her heart. The girl replies that he has not confessed anything to her. At this time, the young lady thought that her brother thought that she was passionately in love with her fiancé. He then asked why they were getting married. Endymion tells her that he feels she has been deceived. Then he says that under Section 11 of the marriage law, a minor can have their marriage dissolved if the guardian's consent was not obtained or the marriage was forced. Lumina claims that she wanted it herself, and at that moment she thought that she sees that he does not believe her and she thinks that there is nothing to be done since she will have to take everything into her own hands. The main character says that she didn't want to talk about it, but she fell in love with Karen at first sight. Hearing this, the boys simultaneously made surprised faces. The girl looked at them and wondered why Ash was surprised. Lumina says that Karen is just an incredible person, and his hair is black as jet, and his eyes are golden like the sun. The colors in his clothes touch both day and night. The girl says he has sharp features, like he's a lone wolf. Endymion thought for a moment, and then said, "Well, if the young lady likes him so much, then he supposes there's nothing he can do about it." Hearing this, the main character thought that the lone wolf's strategy was working. A brother turns to his sister and says that men cannot understand whether they love if they have only seen a woman a couple of times, says that he does not understand what he wants to say. Endymion explains that he has heard that love and marriage are different things, and so asks her to let him know if the young Duke of Heart turns out to have any character issues, even despite his appearance. The main character heard this and did not understand how such a child could know about love. The boy turns to the guard and says that he must know the young Duke well, as he is close to the Duke's family, and asks if he can tell them what kind of man he is. Ash replies that he is not special. His brother says that just because he is not special doesn't mean he is good. At this point, the main character thought that things wouldn't go this way and thought that they needed to change the subject. Then she turned to her brother and said that while he was taking the exam, she bought him some presents. Hearing this, the boy asks in surprise what gifts she bought him. Lumina says she told the maids to wrap them up and then suggests they go home and unwrap each one. These words interested the boy, and the girl thought about it. She succeeded because, as expected, children are children. When they arrived home, the young gentleman immediately began to unpack the gifts, and when he saw the teddy bear, he thought it was a joke. And then he asks his sister what it is. The girl replies that she bought it in a toy store and chose it because she thought that he would be lonely at first since he would not know anyone in the dorm. Endymion looked at the box and thought that this was it. June's lady says that if not during the day, then at night he will definitely feel lonely, and suggests that at such moments he remembers that she loves him. The main character tells him to press on her chest and hug it tighter while sleeping. The boy took the toy in his hands and thought that she loved him. For some time, the newspapers wrote that this was a sensation because the nobles had a new secret hobby, and all those who held secret meetings to study black magic were arrested. The main character, having read the newspaper, says that it seems that every nobleman was questioned about this case, and the young gentleman says that even relatives of their family are involved in this. Lumina says that they were apparently trying to open a new business using black magic. The girl thought about how, when this scandal had just broken out in her past life, she had always wondered why Joseph was so happy. It turned out that the whole thing was that the business was run by the Vales family. And when Teresa was too busy dealing with the case, he personally took control of the Lanches family. The main character thought that now she was the only one enjoying what was happening. Endymion asks his sister if she had a hand in this. When she hears this, she smiles and replies that she had nothing to do with it. The girl says that she has no idea what is going on there, and she doesn't even have time to read the newspapers. And at that moment, she thought that she had only thrown out a small bait. The young lady recalls that when she spoke to Jack, to then reported that she had heard that Carmela the opera singer had someone with whom she regularly met face to face. Hearing this, the man is surprised and says that this can't be. But at this time, the main character noticed that he became interested, and for some time, the newspapers wrote that the famous opera singer Carmela, a well-known commoner, was about to be involved in a scandal with the nobility. As expected, Jack began to follow Carmela, and eventually he probably discovered that her lover was studying black magic. Initially, a journalist with a heightened sense of justice took on this case. However, the matter ended badly, as even high-ranking nobles were involved. and it all led to him being sued, thus creating a lot of problems. Lumina thought about how this time Jack would be the one to be sued, and she thought that was the only way to get revenge. At this time, Endymion looked at the girl and thought that he had no idea what his sister was thinking. The boy reflects on the fact that he was shocked by the sudden news of marriage, but since he is her half-brother, he cannot just stop her. The young master believes that if his sister is ever hurt, he will personally stand by her side to protect her. But he understands that in order to do so, he must gain strength to confront the ducal family. Endymion thought that even if it only lasted as long as he was useful, he hoped that he could be of use to his sister. Endymion easily passed the exam to enter the Neigero Academy, and he quickly became her student. When Sister came to see him off to the academy, she told him that he shouldn't focus on studying alone. She told him to try to make as many friends as possible who shared the same interests as him. The main character believes that this is a great opportunity to expand the boundaries of her world. After all, friends are sometimes even the best support, and you can also have an interesting time with them. A boy turns to his sister and says he has something to tell her. When the girl hears this, she asks if he was listening to her at all. Endymion asks if she has ever been to the scene of the crime. At this time, the main character thought about the road accident in which her father and her stepmother died. The boy injured his leg, but it was the first time he mentioned the accident since the funeral. Lumina asks what happened that day. Anything unusual? He tells her to just forget it because he was curious. Then he turns around and says he's leaving. Hearing this, the main character thought that he would just take and end the conversation on such a note, and she thinks that there is no point in stirring up bad memories. The sister tells her brother that she will write him letters and then tells him not to forget to write her back if anything happens. Endymion leaves without even turning around and says that he understands everything and then says that he will miss her too. 2 weeks later, Lumina turns to the Duke and calls him father and tells him that she is already home. The girl asks how he is doing and also asks if anything unusual happened. The main character saw the surprised looks of both the Duke and the servants and asks what if it was too unceremonious on her part and wonders if it is possible for her to call him Duke. The gentleman assures her that everything is fine. Then he explains that since she is officially married to Karen, she can call him father. Hearing this, the girl thought that it seemed to her that his lordship was in a good mood. Von Hart says that she is probably tired from the journey and therefore suggests that she go to her room and rest, and then says that if she needs anything, she should tell the maid. Hearing this, the Lumina thanked him. Suddenly, the girl felt that someone had picked her up. The master said that since it would obviously be difficult for her to find her way, he would carry her there. The young lady claims she knows where she must go. He says he does, and then tells her she now lives somewhere else. Hearing these words, the girl was surprised and became curious as to why this was a different place. The gentleman shows the lady the room and says that a little repair has been made here for the little Duchess. He suggests that she look to the left, as this room is a living room. Olivia says she can enjoy the views of the garden from the balcony while drinking tea. She then shows off the dressing room. Lumina looked at all this luxury, and she said that she would prefer to stay somewhere else. And at that moment, she thought that this was not a room but a whole house. The Duke asks in surprise if she is too small for her. The girl says that she is asking for forgiveness. The gentleman turns to Olivia and tells her to call the contractors. Then he tells her that they knocked down the walls today and gave the whole floor over to the room. The main character hears this and does not understand what he is talking about. The maid explains that on this floor there is a room where the former Duke kept his paintings. The young lady thought that it was right that Olivia contradicted him. However, the maid said that she thought there would be no problem with that. Hearing this, the girl thought that even Olivia had gone crazy. Lumina turns to the Duke and says that's not what she meant, and then explains that she meant that it was too luxurious for someone like her. The Duke asks what someone like her means. She replies that someone who barely restrains her desire for luxury, At this time, the main character thought that if she gets used to such places, she can repeat the life full of greed that she led in her past life, and she understands that this period in her life was chaos, to which she does not want to return. The girl says that she would prefer something smaller, and then explains that it could be a place where there is not much light, and something like an attic, where everything is covered with a layer of dust, and there are bugs. Lumina screaming claims that it is because she is more accustomed to such places. Seeing their surprised faces, the main character wondered if she had gone too far, and it seemed to her that the atmosphere around her had become even more tense. The Duke claims that she lives here with Karen Yi, and given the public scrutiny, they must share a room. He says that as the daughter-in-law of the Hart Dukedom, if she stays in a squalid, attic-like place, she will be looked down upon. Von Hart therefore suggests the girl to just use this room. Hearing this, the main character thought that since the Duke insists so much and she has no choice, and she decides to stay, but she thinks that it is only because she has to. Olivia turns to the lady and says that she has something to tell her, and then pours tea. Hearing this, the main character became interested in what she wants to talk to her about. The maid reveals that she is in fact Olivia Munez, the Duke's assistant, and she asks the lady's sincere forgiveness for hiding her identity and gaining her trust. Hearing this, the main character thought that she was also asking for her forgiveness since she already knew about her true identity, and also that she would soon betray the Duke. The girl understands that there is nothing suspicious about this maid, but she still wonders how carefully she will plan the betrayal. The main character understands that even if she tries to get information from Ash, he won't tell her anything special, and she thought that she could try to convince Olivia of this. The maid says that she knows that the mistress probably feels betrayed, and also disappointed that she did not reveal her identity from the beginning. Lumina assures Olivia that everything is fine, and then says that it doesn't matter who she is, the Duke's maid or assistant, since to her, she is still the same Olivia. The girl says that she likes her the way she is, and then smiles. A woman with bright red hair turns to the lady and asks her to accept this as an apology. The girl asks in surprise what it is. When the young lady looked, she saw that it was a ticket to the opera, and she was happy about such a gift because she had never been to this place before, and she was also interested in tasting it. In the evening, they went to the opera, and when the carriage stopped, the Duke got out to offer his hand to the young Summer. At this time, the aristocrats were watching them and were wondering who the Duke was accompanying. Lumina looked at the opera house and smiling said that she was so glad that she was going there with her father. At this moment, the girl's heart began to flutter. After all, the tickets that Olivia had given her that day turned out to be tickets to the opera, and as soon as Olivia handed them to her, she immediately realized that this was part of a carefully planned war for public opinion. With the sudden announcement of her marriage to Karen, she became a duchess overnight. As a result, she was sure to be met with a flood of questioning glances. The Duke of Hart probably intends to lay the foundation for her as a young duchess. He intends to show what a good relationship they are on. The girl understands that Olivia Munez is not just a capable assistant, and the title of the play is He is a Monster, but that's okay. And in it, the main character is a monster, and his beloved is an ordinary person. Actually, the main drama is in their conflict, and the main character suggested his beloved not to look at him because he is a monster, and in fact, he looked terrible and felt hungry when he saw her like that. Watching this performance, the girl thought that they simply portrayed the Legionnaires as monsters. The Duke says he doesn't think the actress is very popular. The girl asks if he really thinks so. Olivia explains that it's probably because she didn't have much time to get used to the role. The maid explains that Carmela was originally supposed to be the lead actress, but she was forced to leave the production due to rumors of infidelity and black magic. The assistant informs that since the play is based on the Duke's love story, many people may not like it. Lumina asks, in surprise, what kind of love story is this of the Duke? And at that moment she thought that this is the chance to get to know the Duke and Duchess. The gentleman replies that this is imagination and nothing more, and he believes that these are probably just exaggerated rumors picked up somewhere. The young lady asks if this is a coincidence. Then she says she wants to hear more about her father's love story. Duke von Hart took off his glasses and looked at the girl, and he says that his bright, cool eyes look the same, even when he does not use his abilities. And as a rule, this makes not only ordinary people, but even other legionnaires avoid him. The man says that Iris was the only one who accepted him for who he was, and she always supported him, and he felt her love. Lumina says she was an incredibly kind person. He replies that there is no one else like her in the world. At this time, the main character looked at the expression on the Duke's face and thought that now she felt somehow awkward asking about his love story. While watching the performance, the girl saw that the assistant suddenly ran off somewhere, and she thought that she needed to follow her, and then she would find out something. The Duke saw the girl getting up from her chair and asked what was bothering her. He asked if she didn't like the game at all. The young lady objects and explains that it is not that the gentleman asks if it is perhaps that she is also afraid of his eyes. The main character says that it is not about that at all, and at that moment she thought that it was not the first time she saw them. Lumina explains that she needs to go to the bathroom. When the girl leaves, the gentleman thinks that he does not understand at all what she is trying to do. Brendan turns to the gentleman and apologizes for being late. And then he says that the report on the Lumina de Lanches and reports that no matter how much he studied it, he could not find anything. Olivia says she's thought about it a lot and thinks the young lady is harmless. Ash says she's normal. Then he says that to be more precise, he'll find her strange. At this time, the main character ran out into the corridor and thought that the assistant could not have gone far, and she thinks that she must be somewhere nearby. Olivia was standing by the sink, washing her face, and then she asks why the young lady left. After all, the play wasn't over yet. At this time, the girl thought that she did not understand why she had such a strange feeling. Lumina tells the woman that she is not Olivia. Then she asks who she is. The assistant apologizes and then asks what she means, and also wonders if she is not Olivia, then who is she? The girl says that she would also like to know very much, and she claims that she is sure that she is not Olivia, and since she knows that Olivia is not a legionnaire. Hearing this, woman asks in surprise how she understood it. The lady answers that it was by accident. The woman with red hair says that Ash told her she was weird, and now she thinks he was right. Suddenly, the girl sees Brendan instead of Olivia, and he asks if this face is more familiar to her. Lumina was surprised when she saw the Duke's assistant. He says that it seems like it would be more problematic not to tell her. The main character asks where the real Olivia is. He replies that she is most likely dealing with the accumulated work at the estate, since she is a hard-working lady who has only seen the word procrastination in the dictionary. The girl says that she never thought that he would turn out to be a liar, and then asks if he himself believes it. The man explains that he merely borrowed his wife's appearance with her permission, and says that calling him a liar for this is quite cruel. Hearing this, the main character was surprised because she does not understand whether it is possible that Olivia's husband and Ash's father was Sir Brendan. The assistant reports that he is a true genius of transformation, not limited to one gender. Suddenly, Brendan transformed into young Mr. Karen and tells the girl to look. When she saw it, she was surprised, and then he changed his appearance several more times. The assistant turned into an old man, and this figure interested the girl. She asks if this old man is his grandfather. Brendan explains that he just caught a glimpse of his face somewhere. Hearing this, the main character thinks that he has no idea about the doctor's identity. Suddenly, the young lady saw something wrong with his hand, and then she tells the sir that his hand is melting. He says he got caught at the very end. The gentleman explains that he can hold on when his mind is strong, and he explains that over time, even his face begins to melt and ooze. Lumina says she will call her father and turns to leave. Seeing this, the master tells her to stand still and not go anywhere, and then he tells her that if the captain finds out he is finished, the girl asks why he would kill him for such a trifle, and asks if he is so heartless. Brendan explains that he did not mean it, and then says that he must not know about it. The assistant explains that there is nothing special to show, and asks her to look at his hand. He says that it is proof that he has been influenced by black magic, and he says that it is limited, and therefore if the captain finds out, he is considered a dead man. The main character asks how he knew about the details of the restriction. Brendan replies that it was because the doctor who cast the black magic on him told him about it himself, and when he woke up, there was only darkness around him. The assistant explains that on that day, as usual, he was carrying out the captain's orders, and when he realized that someone in a deep black hood was approaching him, it was already too late and he lost consciousness. Brendan awoke to the familiar smell of medicine and the lingering scent of old red liquid. He reports that there was a man desperately hunting down the captain. The doctor turns to him and asks if his escaped experimental subject has woken up. Then he asks if his name is Brendan now. The man reports that the doctor continued to talk as if he knew him well, and then said that he had poisoned him. Since the test results were positive, he should feel the effects soon. The doctor says that if he wants to get the antidote, then let him bring him data on ancient magic, which Duke Hart was researching. And then he said that she has had everything for a week, and if he does not get the data, he will die. The assistant reports that when he came to, again, the doctor had already disappeared. Hearing this, the girl asks in surprise why he needs this. He replies that he does not know. Lumina asks if he has told Olivia about this. The gentleman replies that he has not had the opportunity yet. At this time, the main character thought that she was sure that Olivia would eventually find out all this, and even if not right away, she believed that she was perceptive enough to notice sooner or later that something strange was happening. The main character understands that it is only a matter of time, and she reflects on the fact that the reason why she betrayed the Duke's house is for her husband, or rather for his salvation. The girl believes that she is ready to do this even at the cost of her life, because Olivia has a unique ability that is invaluable for collecting information, and she is a gifted person who is worthy of the trust of Duke Hart. And she also madly values her family. Lumina thinks that's why she likes Olivia, and she thought about how she doesn't want to let her die. The main character says that she feels like black magic is being used as a limitation, and therefore believes that they only need to get the antidote within a certain amount of time, and asks if she is right. The young lady says that if this is the case, then she has a solution. Hearing this, the gentleman is surprised, and then asks what it is. The girl says that it is useless to use his legionnaire abilities, and then asks what if he makes a mistake and goes down the path of black magic. The little girl asks Sir Brendan if he has some money to begin with. He says he does, and she says he is lucky. Then the young lady suggests that he give her the money. Olivia informs the master that Lumina has left with Brendan. She explains that he who is now disguised as a common servant mentioned that upon returning to the mansion yesterday, Lady Lumina was delighted with the performance. The assistant reports that the girl said that she would secretly buy him a gift, and she thinks that it will probably be as a return gift. Olivia says she didn't bring anyone with her and asks what they should do now. He says it's okay because she's with Brendan. The Duke was intrigued by the word gift, and he wondered what she would bring this time. However, he realized that the girl was very good at surprising. At this point, Brendan says he can't believe they've come to the slums, and he wonders if there really will be someone here who can eliminate the doctor's poison. And he also thinks about the fact that he didn't even really know anything about this doctor. The man thought that he himself did not understand what he expected from this child, and then he thought that he needed to play along with her and quickly return back. The assistant asks the lady where exactly they are going. She replies that they are going to Erica's house. Then she explains that Erica, the owner of the house, touched me with her finger and I will fall apart. Lumina informs him that this is the only place where there is a benefactress who can cure him of the poison. At this time, the main character thought that if she were asked to describe Eric's character, she would say that he was a self-made man in his past life. He was also called a genius in the field of herbalism. Erica gained recognition in scientific circles after a series of famous works, thanks to which he quickly became rich and famous. He attracted considerable attention to himself. But after about 6 years, those who suspected him of being dishonest in his actions began a secret investigation against him. It turned out that the genius who was once hailed as the Pearl of the Empire was a fraud who stole all the work from his stepdaughter. Despite the Empire's belated attempts to save Erica, she was abused for a long time by this bastard and died. In her previous life, she never saw the light, and so she was called the hapless genius. The main character reflects that if the doctor who poisoned Brendan is a genius, then only an equally brilliant person can outwit him. Suddenly, the girl heard screams about how this chicken is talentless, and the potential is too strong, and he can't really use it, and the other man says that this is not what he asked for. The assistant turns to the lady and says that he thinks it would be better if they came another time. However, the girl does not listen to him, but opens the door and says, "It's evening in the hut." The man screaming asks who else she is. Lumina realizes that this is Erica's stepfather, and he is a swindler and a scoundrel. Lumina explained that she is a customer who heard that he sells herbs here. The man screaming says he has no idea where she heard such nonsense and tells her to get lost. However, the girl insists that she is sure she has come to the right place. The main character says that she came to take Erica, and then she turns to the lady and offers to leave here, and turns to the sir and offers to take care of the rest. When the girl took Erica, then at that time, Brendan had to calm him down, her stepfather, and he eventually took care of everything. The main character says that people should be used wisely and in time. The little girl informs that the first thing that needs to be done is to show gratitude to your benefactor. The young lady turns to the girl and asks if she is in shock. Then she says that her name is Lumina. Hearing this, the girl thinks that she has no last name and that her name is simply Lumina. And then she thinks that anyone who just looks at her will understand that she is of noble blood. Erica asks why they were looking for her. The girl explains that they say that Lady Erica can create a great cure, literally out of nothing, and asks if it is true. Brendan was surprised to hear this because he had never heard anything like this, and he believes that even he, who works in the criminal world, does not know anything about this. The man became curious about how a little girl who spent her entire life behind closed doors had such information. Lumina informs her that she has come to ask her for a favor, which she will only have 3 days to complete. Hearing this, Erica says that she is not the one they need, and then apologizes. However, the main character insists that she listen to her until the end, and says that if she accepts her order, she will help her get back on her feet. The young lady says that she has often thought that she does not want to live such a miserable life, and asks, "Isn't that so?" And at that time she thought that she lives in the slums without money, and pretends that she does not understand anything at all, and only hides under her mother's skirt, while her stepfather appropriates everything, her invention from the article. The main character understands that she is clearly fed up with all this and wants to break free. Lumina asks Lady Erica if she knows what this is, and then shows her a bottle that had a blue liquid in it. She asks if it's slime. Hearing this, the main character thought that she instantly recognized it, just as she had assumed. The little girl thought that since the slums had a low level of security, it was easier to encounter monsters there than in other places. The current view of monsters is that they are just bad creatures that legionnaires fight. But once serious research into monsters begins, that will change dramatically. Thanks to Erica and her dissertation, the main character asks Brendan if he has ever seen slime that can't take the required shape and keeps spreading. He asks if by slime she means him, And the girl then says that roughly speaking, he wants to believe that Lady Erica will be able to fix this slime. Lumina says that she will provide her with everything she needs for these 3 days, and then tells her that if she can succeed, she will guarantee her a bright future. Erica says he doesn't know if she can handle it. The main character claims that she can handle it because she believes in her. Brendan heard this and didn't understand how she could make such confident statements without a shadow of a doubt, and he thought that after this, even he believed her. Lumina says that this proposal is her first and last chance to finally see the light. She tells the girl to take responsibility for her own future and make the right choice. The main character says that now all that remains is to wait for good news. The assistant says that if this girl fails, he will have wasted his money. The little girl asks him why he is so pessimistic. He replies that it is because she keeps giving him false hopes and he has unjustified expectations. Brendan says he just threw his money away by picking up a random guy from the slums. Lumina asks the gentleman if he has ever gambled. Then he explains that it is the same as betting, because he does not know what cards the other players have, and instead, he guesses the results by reading the expectations of others. The young lady says that the higher the stake in a situation that others consider impossible, the greater the chance of winning the jackpot if they win. She says that it is the same thing, and they can raise the stakes because they have nothing to lose. The main character reports that she is the most feared player at the card table. Hearing this, the man thought that she was just a child who couldn't even pronounce the word gambler properly, and he didn't understand why she could be so confident. Brendan asks the lady where the gift is. Then he reminds her that she slipped away under the pretext of Togo going to get a gift for the captain. He says that he told Liv everything, and therefore thinks the captain already knows. Hearing this, the main character thought that Liv, this is Olivia's nickname, which means he says that he told her everything. The girl thinks that he just hinted that he is actually playing the role of a double agent, and understands that this is very brave of him. The young lady ponders that perhaps she shouldn't trust him with any secrets. He asks what she's going to do. Then he says that it's late, and he thinks it will be hard to find a decent gift. Lumina agrees with him and thinks that she will have to find a way out. The Duke asks what brought her here at such a late hour. The girl says that she went to the city today in secret from him. The Count thought he already knew, and he remembered Olivia's request that he should not speak of it, since they were keeping it a secret that Brendan was a spy. The main character says that she is so grateful that they accepted her as their daughter-in-law, so she thought it would be nice to bring them some kind of gift. The young lady says that she doesn't think there is a gift that would be perfect for him, and that's why. But suddenly he interrupts her and says that's why she didn't buy anything. The little girl says that she couldn't take a photo of him, so she drew a picture and shows it. Seeing this, the Duke does not understand what it is at all, and then asks if it is a demon. Hearing this, the main character thought about what she expected at all, and thought that it was impossible to get a proper answer from him for the situation. The little girl says that he is the father, and then explains that she drew him, and at that moment she thought that it sounds crazy, but she understands that she had no choice but to draw him because time was running out. The young lady thought that given the circumstances, she would probably have to use her trump card, and then she said that she felt that her skills were not enough to show respect and love to her father. The little girl says that if he doesn't like the drawing, then she will take it away. The gentleman takes the drawing and asks who said that he doesn't like it, and then he says that this drawing touches his heart, and he suggests leaving it here. Hearing this, the main character was surprised, and she does not understand how he can like him if he previously called her a demon. The gentleman turns to the girl and says that she mentioned that this was her thank you gift to him, and asks if this is true. The Duke asks if she can draw him more of these when she has free time. Hearing this, Lumina was surprised and wondered what he was going to do with these pathetic drawings, but she thought the request was quite simple. The young lady says that if he wants, she can make them for him at any time. At this time, Brendan comes into Olivia's room and says that he came to talk about something. He asks if she is busy. The woman with red hair asks him what he is doing here so late. Then she says that she has a young lady to take care of. He says that the young lady is exactly why he came. Lumina asks if it is true that her family will be coming from their hometown. The maid replies that it is true, and she has not seen them for so long that she is really looking forward to meeting them. The maid claims that it is all thanks to the young lady. The main character asks if she can go meet them with her, and then says that she always takes care of her, and so she would like to see her loved ones at least once, and she can't wait for this meeting. Brendan says he thinks this will take him away for a while. Then he tells Olivia not to worry, as she can easily transform into one of the family members. When she hears this, the woman says she never told her that when she was serving her. Olivia, crying out, asks why she only offered it to him. Then she says that she wants to serve the young lady again. The man turns to the woman and calls her dear and tells her to calm down. Brandon says that maybe she's just bored of sitting in her room all the time on this rainy day. Then he asks if she knows that at such a young age, children usually can't sit still. Olivia says she thinks it's better to get outside, even on a day like this, since the estate is boring anyway. The mate asks, what about the captain? She replies that everything is as usual, and he has pulled all the curtains and is drinking Calvados alone. The woman says she is worried about whether everything will be okay with the young master on such a day. The man says he thinks the rain will stop soon, and therefore they think everything should be okay. Lumina gets off the train. A guard offers her his hand to help her. She thanks him and says that she hasn't been to the station for a long time. Suddenly, Ash heard someone calling him, and when he turned around, he saw the maid, but he realized that it was his father's voice. The maid says that she is his father. Hearing this, Ash thought about what it means that he reincarnated as a maid this time, and asks if they are not planning to meet his family. Brendan explains that the family history had to be made up in a hurry, so he simply hired actors. Then he tells the boy to pretend he doesn't know he's his father. The maid turns to the young lady and says that she will now guide her, and informs her that her sister is waiting opposite the station. She replies that she understands. Lumina asks how she managed to convince her real family. She replies that she has perfected her acting skills. Hannah says that this is her little sister Erica, and then says that she misses her very much. The girl says that she was worried about her sister, who works in such a big mansion, so she prepared some herbal medicine in her hometown. The main character tells Hannah that she is so lucky to have a caring sister. Then she asks Ash if he could bring them an egg tart from Fashion Bakery while they chat. The guy heard this and was surprised. And the girl says that the egg pie is cooked for more than an hour, and if it is cooked correctly, then when you slowly lower sharp knives into it, it makes an amazing crispy sound. And when you cut it into 2 parts, then inside there is moist and airy custard. Lumina says that since they arrived, her mouth is watering just thinking about this cake, and then she says that she can only ask him to buy it. At this time, the young guard thought that since his father was here, he thought that if he left for a short time, there would be no problems. The main character thought that now that Ash was gone, they could get down to business. Erica says that she guessed that the lady of noble blood, well, she could not have imagined that she was the daughter-in-law of Duke Hart, and she says that if she had known that she would meet her. But the main character interrupts her and says that she probably would have bowed to her from the very first meeting. And then she says that this is exactly why she didn't say anything. Lumina asks how things are going with the medicine, and also if everything is going well. The girl replies that when she tried it on mucus, the result was perfect. The lady says that if it worked with the mucus, then they can try it on people, and asks if she could tell more about the medicine. Erica says that the substance in the flask she gave her earlier has the same composition as the slime, and believes that thanks to the lady, she was able to narrow down the search and therefore everything went more smoothly. The girl says that when the slime absorbs the root of a plant called Photania, it exhibits abnormal reactions. The moisture in her body evaporates quickly, causing her to lose shape and begin to melt. Hearing this, the main character thought that it meant that Brendan was in the same state as the slime that was consuming Fatinaya. And that day, she immediately noticed that he was like a melting slime, which surprised her very much. Lumina recalls that around this time in her past life, a melting slime phenomenon spread across the continent. The prophets associated such a phenomenon with the coming end of humanity. For the Empire, this turned out to be a huge problem. It was then that Erica academically proved the phenomenon of melting mucus, and thus made a name for herself in the scientific community. However, this thesis was published as the achievement of her stepfather. The main character thought that maybe in the past, Brendan studied poisons that people could absorb, but he could not find the poison, and accordingly the antidote. Lumina turns to the girl and says that she must have worked all night, considering the tight lines, and then says that it was a great job. Erica thanks the lady for her generous support and says that it was the happiest time of her life. The young lady says that if this is so, then now she will be happy all her life. Hearing this, the girl was surprised and then asks if she means it. The main character again does not let her finish and tells her that they are now close, and therefore she will make sure that Togo continues to do the research that she likes so much. The mistress tells her to let her know if her stepfather tries to restrain her in any way, and she claims that she will take care of him. Then hearing this, the maid thinks that the lady is becoming like the captain, and she thinks that this is a clear disadvantage of homeschooling. Erica says that she thinks she will never see her stepfather again, and she says that after he was taken away by the knights, she and her mother talked a lot, and she said that she doesn't need a husband who beats her daughter. Hearing this, Lumina says that this is good news and says that she will take on the preparation of the laboratory. However, she suggests that the girl remember that even when she becomes incredibly famous in the near future, her orders should be a priority. Erica thanks the lady for believing in her still developing abilities, and then it is said that she is forever grateful to her, and therefore she tries to be useful. At this time, the main character thought that if she could lure someone as talented as Erica to her side from the very beginning, then in the future she would be able to achieve everything she wanted. The young lady realizes that the future continues to change, and now Erica will not be known as an unlucky genius, and she will not die early. Lumina ponders that with the alimony that the Duke will give her in the divorce, she will be able to live comfortably for the rest of her life. However, she understands that she will never know what the future holds, especially because of her relatives. The girl thinks that they may be lying low now, but she understands that they will definitely create problems in the end. And she thinks about the fact that her decisions can create a butterfly effect, and now she cannot predict how everything will turn out. The main character understands that it is not time to show her cards anyway, because she should eventually have enough strength for revenge, and she understands that she cannot do without Brendan's help. The little girl turns to Brendan and tells him to do her a favor. He says that the young lady can ask for anything. Lumina says that she wants to make an acrostic with the word slave, and asks to be given the initial syllable. Hearing this, the maid thought for a moment, and then she gave one letter. The girl says that this is great, and then says that if she takes this antidote, she will survive and become her subordinate. Brendan was surprised to hear this, and asks if she is asking to be her subordinate. The main character explains that she wants him to treat her the way he treats the Duke, and asks if it is easy. The maid asks if she refuses, then will she give her an antidote. The young lady objects and says that of course the antidote is hers in any case, and explains that she does not resort to such pathetic manipulations, and therefore does not seek to build their relationship in such a way. The main character explains that she only wants to see a capable person next to her who would become her subordinate and not betray her. The maid, surprised, asks if she is asking her to become a double agent. Lumina replies that it is, but it will not be much different from what she is doing now for the Duke, and she says that she will be forbidden to report her actions to her father, and if anything happens, she will become her hands and feet. The little girl tells her not to worry because she is not telling her to hand over her father, and she says that she has no intention of confronting him or leaking any confidential information. The main character about how, because of the fact that she looks like a child, she could not act openly outside the house, but she believes that with the help of someone talented like Brendan, she will be able to act more actively. The maid says she would like to ask something and wonders where the nickname Calvados comes from. But suddenly, Brendan felt that the time had come, and his face, the girl says that it is even for the better, and then she claims that to check that the medicine works, there is nothing better than to drink it when the disease worsens. The little girl remembers that Erica mentioned earlier that when she experimented with the mucus, the medicine worked immediately after being administered, and she hopes that he will come to his senses quickly. The assistant says he still has a question for her. Lumina says Ash is coming back and asks if he wants to show his beloved son what condition her face is in, and tells him to take the antidote quickly. The maid asks what if it doesn't work. She says there are 2 days left before the meeting with the doctor, and so she understands that they won't have time to find another antidote, and therefore believes that today will decide everything. Lumina says that he will either recover and join her, or he will keep his family in the dark and die. Then she asks why he hesitates if the worst-case scenario is inevitable. The main character reminds that she already said that the less he has to lose, the more freely he can raise the stakes, and she claims that such an opportunity comes once in a lifetime, and therefore she suggests being more confident. The girl tells Ash that he can keep the cakes. He apologizes, then explains that he bought them because she wanted them. The young lady says that there were so many desserts that she was already full and simply couldn't have any more. Hearing this, the boy wondered if she had changed her mind too quickly about what she had been so delighted with. And at that moment, he looked at his father and thought that he was probably not feeling very well. And he wondered what was wrong with the maid and was asking about it. Lumina answers that Hannah must be in deep thought now since she met her sister after such a long time apart. And at that time, she thought that the medicine didn't work and also thinks that maybe it's not right for Brendan. Hannah says the lady is right and explains that she was so overwhelmed with emotion that she simply couldn't hold back her tears. Hearing this, the girl thought that it worked. And then she asks the maid how she feels. She replies that she feels great because she has already come to her senses. Ash was surprised when he saw this, and he didn't understand what it was, and he thought that his dad was getting into character too much, and then he looked at the cookie and thought that he could actually eat it. The little girl thought about how only good people share food. Then she asks if they are going home yet. Ash asks the lady what this light is. She replies that it is a pendant, and when she saw how it glows, she was surprised, and she thought that this cannot be. The girl remembered the Duke's words that she would be able to find him immediately whenever he needed her. Suddenly, the main character found herself in an alley. She saw a Karen and asked if he could hear her. She also wondered if he recognized her. The little girl realizes that he is not reacting and asks how many fingers she is showing. He looks at the lady and tells her to stay away from him. Lumina says that now she sees that he is okay, but she saw that his entire body was covered in wounds, and she thought that he had been fighting and had just been beaten up, despite the fact that he was a legionnaire. The main character claims that if he wants, he can raise everything here to the ground, and asks why he is holding himself back. The young gentleman replies that if he does not do this, he will become like him. The little girl asks if he's talking about the Duke. He says yes, and then he tells her that day was no different from today, and it was raining, and his mother was lying in his arms in an eternal sleep. Lumina says that it's not worth talking about if it's hard for him, and she says that she understands that he doesn't want to remember that day. The guy says that as soon as it starts raining, this scene stands before his eyes, and that day keeps spinning in his head, and he can't even move. The girl gives him an umbrella and says that everything is fine, and then suggests that they go home. Karen says they look alike. When she hears this, the girl asks if he is talking about the man who helped him on the day of the massacre. He asks how she knows. The main character explains that she overheard it by accident. And at that moment, I thought that he shouldn't mention Duke Hart. Lumina touches the boy's face and says that she thinks he still has a fever. He takes her hand and asks what she is doing. The young lady says that he is slightly hot, but she is not sure if it is because of the fever, since she thinks that maybe her hands are just warm. The little girl claims that she will cure him, just like last time. Hearing this, he is surprised and asks if she means last time. Karen says that immediately after the healing, she fainted. However, the girl assures that everything will be fine today, and so she suggests trusting her. The main character thought that last time it happened because Togo used her powers too often, completely unaware of her own limits, and since then she has not used her powers on anyone. The young lady realizes that she has also eaten her fill and slept a lot and had a good time in the Duke's house, and she thinks it's time to repay her for that. At that moment, the girl thought that it had all started again, and she felt sick and had the feeling that she was being sucked into a black swamp, and her heart felt like it was being squeezed in a cold vice. The young gentleman looked at the girl and said that this was what needed to be proven, and then ordered her to let him go at once. However, she objects, and he told her to stop because it hurt her to the point of tears. But the young lady objected again and thought about what she had to endure, and she thought that if she couldn't cure Karen, the contract would be cancelled. And she wondered how he could act so naturally if he was in so much pain. Lumina wondered if he could, since she had learned to ignore pain, and she hoped that wasn't the case. The girl tells him not to let himself be, and after these words, she loses consciousness again. The maid asks the servant girl if the Duke is still in his room. The green-haired servant girl says that since this girl is still new and doesn't know anything, then she says that he never comes out until it stops raining. The head maid suggests that they stop chatting and get back to work. She believes that on days like these, it is better not to get caught doing nothing. Suddenly, a young gentleman enters the room, holding the baby in his arms. He screams and orders them to call a doctor immediately. Karen thought about how he had come to the Duke's estate for the first time of his own free will, and he remembered swearing to himself that he would never return to a place inhabited by the man he least wanted to call his father. The young master believes that when he realized that she had taken his wounds, the only place that came to his mind was the Duke's estate. The guy realizes that this place he hates the most is the only one where she can get help, and he thinks that it is pathetic and insulting. However, Karen is curious about this girl who uses strange magic and asks his father about it. The Duke replies that it is not magic and she is a legionnaire, not a healer. Father suggests keeping her close since she will be useful to him. Hearing this guy thought about how they did not know a single legionnaire healer, and he thinks that if healing abilities simply transfer wounds from the healed to the legionnaire, then it means that Lumina took all the pain that he felt at that moment for herself. Karen thought that knowing about it and having personally experienced it, she still decided to marry him, and he does not understand what she saw in him that was so significant. Suddenly, the girl began to stir, and she asks why Endymion did this. Hearing this, the guy thought that this was a man's thing to them, and was surprised. And he also became interested in who Endymion was, and what he did to her, and what kind of relationship they had. The boy thought that maybe this was the name of the one she loved. Before, he understands that Lumina is very young, but among the nobles, talk of marriage begins at a much earlier age. Karen reflects on how she seems so naive, and perhaps agreed because she was unable to say no, and believes that the more time they spent together, the more likely it was that she was developing an irresponsible love. However, the young master does not understand why he is angry and why he feels something like this. When the girl came to, she said that she was cold and asked if it was night. The guy told her not to get up, but to lie down. The heroine turns to the young gentleman and asks if she has a fever. He asks if she feels anything wrong with her. The lady says that she would not say she is sick. Karen asks what's wrong with her powers and wonders if her wounds don't heal quickly. She explains that she doesn't usually get this upset and believes that he, the young master, is a special case. Lumina explains that when she uses his powers on herself, she feels strange. And she feels more pain than usual, colder and stickier. He says that this is, of course, because she took his wounds. The girl asks if he saw it. The guy is surprised and wonders how she can say such a thing after how she cried in pain. Hearing this, the girl does not understand why he is so angry, and she also wonders if there is more compassion in him than he wants to show. The main character reflects on the fact that he simply cannot see someone in pain in front of him, and she believes that for Karen, she is just a means by which he can ward off the annoying admirer Aravel. The young lady believes that she is just a tool to be used without emotion. She thinks that he should be glad that she suffered the wounds. Lumina asks if he was worried, and when she sees that the guy is surprised to hear this question, but doesn't answer, the girl says that means he was worried because the towel is still wet. She claims that he was worried about her because he was sitting at such a late hour. The girl says that the first time someone put a wet towel on her forehead was when she was sick. And then she says that she always wondered what it felt like, and it turns out it's cold. And she laughs. The young gentleman asks what's so funny. The heroine says she's happy because he was there when she was hurt. Then she thanks him. Karen suggests getting back to business. Then she asks if she knows what it is. The young lady replies that this flower in it is a cute little white one. He says that she coughed up this flower. Hearing this, the girl is surprised, and the guy claims that it came from her mouth. It's unlikely that she was so hungry that she decided to eat the flowers, and then asks if there's any way to know where it came from. The girl replies that she has no idea. The young gentleman claims that she coughed up more than one, and so he gave the rest to the doctor and says that if he is not a charlatan, he must find out what is going on. The guy tells the girl that she should rest now because he will call the doctor. The surprised lady asks if it is not night now. He asks what is wrong, and the little girl says that the doctor needs to sleep too. Lumina suggests that the guy should lie down next to her. Hearing this, he tells her to get a good night's sleep first, and then they'll think about it. The guy lay down in bed and asks if he should lie down here. The main character explains that he also looks tired and thinks that it would be nice to sleep and then decide what to do next. The young lady says that the bed is wide enough, so there shouldn't be any problems. And at that moment, she thought that if she could, she would send him to another room. But since the Duke vacated their original room, she must share this room with Karen. So she understands that for now, he can only stay here. Karen asks who Endymion is. Hearing the name, the girl asks why he named him. The guy asks if she knows him. At this time, the main character does not understand why he suddenly started talking about Endymion. And she reflects on the fact that unlike Lucius, who knows all the ins and outs, right down to her Aunt Toe's cousin's grandfather, she believes that Karen knows nothing at all about her family. Lumina knows that since they don't get along, he's probably never heard of her. Karen asks if this guy is a bad guy and wonders if he was hers or something. The girl objects and says that he is not a bad person at all, but a very good person. The guy asks if she likes him. She answers that, of course, she likes him. And at that moment, she thought that they do not understand what is so obvious about it. The main character believes that in the Lanches family, it is normal to love two people at the same time. She says that Endymion is her younger brother. The guy suggests the girl to go to bed quickly, since her temperature has not gone down yet, and then he tells her to continue calling him by his name, since she knows him. Karen claims that she says she likes him, and asks if she knows the name of the one she likes. The girl replies that of course she knows that his name is Karen von Hart. He says that she said it correctly, and then claims that her name is Lumina von Hart. The boy tells her that the Hart family has had good health and has never been sick for generations, and so he tells her not to get sick without his permission. At this point, the girl thinks that he has blushed even more. The young gentleman suggests that the girl stop chatting and lie down and rest, since her temperature may rise. Hearing this, the main character thought that she had been thinking about this since their first meeting, but she thought that he was not being honest with her at all, and she thought that the only one who had a fever now was him. When the young gentleman woke up, he thought about what he had already morning. He doesn't understand how it happened, because he just closed his eyes, and it's already light in the room. The boy thought that it was impossible because his mother had died in this mansion, and he still couldn't believe how he had managed to sleep so soundly. And when he looked at the sleeping girl, he thought that she always made him nervous. The doctor came to examine the girl and says that she is much better than yesterday, and he thinks that they are healing well, but still says that she should focus on recovery and rest. Karen tells the girl that she must have slept longer than usual because she was tired. She explains that she usually sleeps a lot. The young master says that he thinks it is because she is hungry that she decided to eat the flowers. Then he turns to the maid and tells her to quickly prepare the food. Hearing this, the main character thought that she had never eaten flowers and did not understand where he got it from. But when she saw the flowers, she thought that they remained in their original form. Karen says that she said that she is a secret hidden, even from the imperial family, and then asks the girl what is wrong with her and wonders what will happen if someone finds out about the abilities and kidnaps her, and who will protect her then. Lumina says that in that case, he will help her and points at the guy. He asks in surprise why he should help her. Then she says that he doesn't like her at all. The young lady claims to be his wife and says that since there is something wrong with her, he wonders if it is not natural to help her. Karen asks if she breaks her ankle, she will stand on it without fear. The young lady replies that sometimes people think she is some kind of porcelain doll. Then she opens the window because she thinks the room is too stuffy. And the main character says that even if it's raining outside, the room needs to be aired. She calls the guy to come to her. He asks what she saw. The girl says that although this rainbow is small, it is beautiful as a picture. The young gentleman says that it is only a rainbow. Hearing this, she is surprised and asks why he said only, because she thinks that it can only be seen now. Karen says that even if the clouds gather, it doesn't change the fact that the sky is blue, and the darkness is just a moment. The girl is sure that this rainbow is very beautiful, and the guy agrees with her. The mate tells the captain that the rain has stopped. He says he already knows. Brendan says he came to talk about Milady. The gentleman asks if he found anything about Lumina. The assistant explains that he has been watching from the sidelines the entire time, but Milady is not connected to the doctor in any way. He asks why Brendan explains that she has seen him before her, but she does not seem to know him, because she believes that a legionnaire with such unique abilities is highly valued by doctors. The assistant says that if they find out about the abilities, like 6 years ago, they can do something crazy again. The master says that then he will also do one crazy thing in order to catch this person. The doctor was obsessed with the legionnaires, so 6 years ago, he kidnapped Iris and Karen. Even though Iris was an ordinary person, she fell into the doctor's hands because she was with Karen at the time. And remembering the Count's past, the heart, which seemed completely unfeeling, breaks into a million pieces. The assistant turns to the captain and says that there is a matter that he needs to know. Brendan says that last time the two of them performed a covenant ceremony using ancient magic, and he says that he doesn't know if he understood correctly. But last time the Lumina disappeared, and he thinks she went to the Karen. The gentleman asks if they are both home now. He also inquires about their condition. The assistant reports that Karen was not only fine but also full of energy. However, the girl fainted again, and Karen carried her in his arms. And fortunately, she is fine now, and he believes that her body obviously cannot withstand the strain of using her abilities. Von Hart tells the assistant to call Olivia and says he will have to go back. At this time, Karen asks the girl what she is talking about and claims that this is his room. The young lady objects and explains that, to be more precise, this room is his and hers, and that means theirs. Hearing this, he asks in surprise how this happened. Lumina explains that it's because they got married, and she says that it doesn't matter anyway because the bed is wide, and she thinks that 10 people can sleep on it. And then she says that they slept together yesterday too. Hearing this, the boy became embarrassed. The girl looked at his reaction and thought that he hated her after all. Suddenly, they heard someone knocking on the door, and the young gentleman wondered who was disturbing them. At such a late hour, Hannah came into the room and told the young gentleman that it was time for Milady to change. Then she asked the Duke if he would like to stay. Hearing this, the young master immediately left the room. The maid says that she is so glad that Karen left so easily. The girl says that given what was said, most would have left immediately. Lumina asks where it is ever seen that a maid could look the Duke in the eye. Then she tells him that he does not hide his identity at all. Hearing this, Brendan immediately transformed. Seeing this, the girl thought that she had already gotten used to all his transformations, and she thinks that since he came to her at such an hour on purpose, it means only one thing, that the restriction imposed on him by the doctor is temporary, until today. And the main character understands that tonight at midnight, Brendan's fate will be decided. The assistant says that when Milady went out today, she suddenly disappeared. And then he says that he thinks Ash was very surprised. The main character thought that only 2 people close to Lucius knew about the contract between her and the Duke. Brendan says he is so shy that he can't show it. Then he tells her that when she sees him, she should say that she is fine. The young lady agrees. The gentleman says that Ash is the second treasure in his life. She asks who is the first. He answers that, of course, Olivia. And the day she agreed to marry him was the brightest day of her life. And she confessed her feelings to someone like him, and therefore he believes that at that moment there was no one happier than him. The main character asks if he shouldn't be with Olivia now. He replies that he can't do that because his wife will be sad when he dies, and he doesn't want to make her sad. Hearing this, Lumina realized that Brendan truly loved his family, and he almost died when he was poisoned by the doctor. But the medicine of Erica was able to slow down the symptoms of the poison. However, this medicine had side effects, and it was very difficult for him. Although it seemed outwardly that he accepted them calmly, he was able to survive only because he wanted to be with his family. However, he understands that the period set by the doctor will come to an end. And therefore, today's situation is different from his previous life, when he was forced to die helplessly. The main character thought that they have a chance to save Brendan, and she is immensely happy because she sees that he has not changed at all. The young lady says that the uncle will not be able to make Olivia cry. Hearing this, he smiles and says that he has lost, and then tells the girl that he will become her subordinate. Brendan says that if she wants to betray the captain, he will not do it. The girl asks if she respects him very much. The assistant explains that because of his unique abilities in action, he was kidnapped by the doctor, and the man who pulled him out of hell was the captain. And then explains that this is why he will never hand him over. The assistant tells the girl to be wary of the doctor. He explains that he is obsessed with legionnaires. If he finds out about her, he will torture her. The gentleman asks if she wants to be experimented on. Brendan transforms into a doctor and tells the girl that if she sees this face, she should run without thinking. At this time, Lambron's imperial castle. The girl asks her brother if he feels better. When he sees Belle, asks if she was here all this time. Elliot Lembrana, the second prince. The girl turns to her brother and claims that now is not the time to read a book, and then she says that Karen got married this time, and she can't remember his wife's name. The princess says that she is definitely from a family she has never heard of, and asks her brother if he thinks Karen acted wisely. Elliot says he is very sorry that her beloved Duke got married. Hearing this, The girl asks what nonsense he is talking about. He asks her in surprise why she is angry. The princess reports that things have become more complicated now, and she is Arabelle Fiage of the August family, is going to marry a man who married a low-born girl, and then claims that she will never admit it. The princess had gotten everything she wanted all her life, be it a thing or a person, and she believed that Duke Hart's only son was a legionnaire, and she thought that a guy like him was just destined to be associated with her. Arabelle says that she never thought that this girl would grab him in her arms. The prince tells Belle that he understands that she is upset and informs her that even her father has given permission for this marriage, and he asks what they can do then. The lady says that the problem is also with the father because he called the Duke of Hart to him, but after looking at him, his face just remained silent. And what's worse is that the father said, why should he interfere in personal matters? The princess says that no matter how great Duke Hart is, he is not an emperor, and she thinks that if this sticky girl did something, she will not be able to remain unpunished. Elliot reports that Duke Hart is one of the most cold-blooded men, and he not only killed many legionnaires, but also his father and wife. Legionnaires are not afraid of human lives, so the father behaves carefully with him. The princess says that it is just a rumor that he killed his wife. However, the brother objects and says that he does not think it is completely false. The prince asks if she has ever spoken to Marcel. She tells him not to mention her older brother. He asks if the Duke is the only suitable match for her. Then he says that she is still young and therefore does not think she should rush. Arabelle says that she has never heard anything more stupid and thinks that it only irritates her, and at that time, she thought that if she compares it with her second brother, it sounds nice. Brother says that if she really likes him so much, then they will figure out what to do. At this time, the main character thought about how everyone was telling her that she should avoid her flawed, yet another prince. And after one incident with Elliot, she began to hear such words more often. After such an incident, even his late mother changed her attitude and turned away from him. His situation worsened greatly, although this is natural, but the girl believes that for her, Elliot is the one who treats her like an ordinary person, although she or the legionnaire is the only one in the whole world. The prince says that there is something strange, that the Duke is underage, and therefore thinks that there is no need to rush into marriage. Hearing this, the sister says that it is true and absurd. After all, this little girl looked a little impudent and sweet, but nothing more. Elliot asks what the name of the tuna com is Duke Hart married. She replies that Lumina Lanches. Hearing this, the boy thought that his sister was only pretending not to remember all the details about her. At this time, the princess thought that she was much better than her. The prince says that his sister knows little about this lady. She agrees with him. The guy asks why he doesn't introduce her into his circle. Once the room issue was somewhat resolved, Karen stopped trying to run away from home. As a result, they began to meet often. Once he even gave her flowers. At this time, the main character thought that he often does something sudden, and then asks why he suddenly gave her flowers. The Duke explains that he picked them up. The girl is surprised to hear this, and then says that these are flowers from the Duke's garden. And the maid says that recently, many flowers have been blooming. Hearing this, Lumina asks if it is true, and then says that she wants to see them. Hannah says that since her body has recovered, they can go for a walk, and says that now she will prepare everything for this walk. In a few minutes, the main character was already in the garden, and thought that it was good that she went out, because the scent of flowers is so sweet, and she feels so calm. However, she is worried that the gentleman behaves like a stranger, although he showed with all his appearance that he does not want to, but still walks with her. The girl looked at the maid, who was smiling all the time, and thought that she understood everything at once. Lumina thought that Karen was very similar to a stray cat, and if you approach him first, he will immediately run away. And she thinks that if you don't pretend not to see him, he will immediately approach. The girl thought that it was all just like now. and she thinks that she could have offered him a walk, but he was still afraid of her, and if she showed that she saw him, he might run away.